Hello everyone, welcome to episode 47 of FPL BlackBox ahead of Gameweek 7. Apologies to Alan, but I am back in the seat. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. It's good to have you back, as in new surrounds. I'm missing the pictures already though in the background, but how have you settled into your new abode?
Well, I've moved in on Thursday, went on a stag, then went to a wedding, got back yesterday evening, so the house is an absolute carnage site. No time for pictures, but hopefully by next week we'll have my wall of heroes back up.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad to have you back and settled in. And do you want to explain the attire? I mean, it was your idea, right, originally, and now we've got to stick to it. But it's the 20k subs, all right?
It's the 20k subs. Yeah, every 10k subs we don some formal attire. I mean, you're still going on about when we hit 100k, me doing it in my birthday suit.
You definitely said it's on record that you were going to go.
It seemed like a long way. It seemed like a long way away when we were at like 500, and now we're at 20k. It's kind of like, whoa,
it's getting very real, isn't it? Is it too real for you? I think it is. yeah, that will see. But yeah, we're very grateful, aren't we, to hit 20k?
Absolutely.
It's been great, the support we've got since we started this, and long it may continue, because that support really just eggs us on to do more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks everyone for smashing those like buttons, commenting, people in the chat. Got about 500 in the chat right now, even though there's football on. So yeah, we massively appreciate all of your support.
So smash the likes now and sub if you don't already. What are we doing tonight as well? We have got a full stock check, I think, of every position, because I think that at the moment wildcards are very much back in vogue, given the injuries that have suddenly hit defenders in particular. Last week, Luke, obviously, we'll talk a bit about Luke and how good he was last week, but we did big at the back, didn't we? And since we've done big at the back, basically they've all dropped like flies. So now we can't go big at the back because we haven't got any back left to go big with. So it's a bit of a disaster, really, isn't it? My team is, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you get Luke on, curses everything. It's just standard D1 Sable, to be honest.
Yeah, he did well though, didn't he? It was great.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great. I was listening to it while packing stuff into boxes and thinking, why's he got to be this good? I don't mind. I want it to be all right, but yeah, he was excellent, and he's a more than adequate stand-in when I'm not around.
Absolutely. So we were talking about defences last week, and my policy is very much to look at the likes of 2 Chelsea defenders and a City defender and get Trent in there, and Shaw was going to make way, and now look at it, it's all falling apart. We've got Trent injured, Shaw is injured for United, and obviously I've got Reece James, who I bought him as my first Chelsea defender, got injured. Alonso's playing tonight for Chelsea in the Champions League. Does that mean Chilwell starts for Southampton? Feasibly, I could have Shaw, Alonso, Trent and James all out at the weekend, which leaves me with Veltman and any defender I bring in on my transfer.
Wow.
Tatters, basically.
Wow.
Tatters.
Wildcard territory?
Could be. I mean, we'll look at that tonight. We're going to look at every position, not just defences, keepers, midfielders and forwards as well. And you've picked a wildcard team, and so have I. So we're both going to dip into that and look at what we would pick if we were playing a wildcard. And I notice there's a few wildcards fluttering about in the community at the moment.
Yeah, right. It was, kind of game week 1 and 2. It was, everyone was booking it in for this week, weren't they? Because of the Chelsea fixture changes, and people kind of dumping a few players. But I'm looking at my team and thinking, doesn't need it this week. Next week, different story. But this week, I think I can get away with it. But like you say, a lot of people are being forced into it by injuries and rotation and other problems in their squad. So yeah, I think it's a good week to do it. And this week or next week, I can see why.
One of the worst things you can do, which is what I did last week, which I've resisted till now, is see what you could do with a wild card. Because I think it's one of the lessons that I've got to put down as a BlackBox lesson, is that if you're trying to save the wild card, don't sit there and put together what you could do with it, because that could tip you over the edge. Because I looked at it last night and I'm like, there's about 6 changes, maybe 7, and there is improvements all over the place. But there are some things where I'd be trading in a player who could do well, and therefore, I mean, that's the rub, isn't it? If your team that you get rid of does better than the team you bring in, that's not great, is it?
I think this week there's more chance of that happening if you've got an 11 out, because United v Everton's, I think, could potentially be a few goals United in that. People getting rid of Ronaldo and Greenwood and those guys, and West Ham as well, because after this match you probably want to be dumping. I'm probably be dumping 2 out of 3 of my West Ham assets, but against Brentford at home could be quite a high scoring game. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Well, we'll look at that. We're going to look at Arsenal as well, because Arsenal, against the odds, have suddenly emerged as a potential source of fantasy talent. As would you believe it? And they come up against Brighton this week, top of the table. Brighton, almost top of the table, high flying Brighton. Won't we? So that's an interesting fixture for Az to analyse. But we're going to look at the Arsenal attack and see whether we can see any potential there. There's one or two that I'm looking at, and one or two that have appeared in wildcards this week. So we'll look in detail at those. We'll look at the Chelsea defence again, because it is still the most wanted of the defences, I think, at the moment. And we'll look at the rotation there again. We analysed it with Luke last week. I'll let you have a go this week, and we'll look at some data behind the Chelsea defence. But basically, every position we're going to give it a grilling, and then we're going to look at some wildcard teams, and then it's going to be the predictions, which I think you're doing rather well in. So we may not dwell on that very much. Let's talk about this week's score, though. So this is your team from Gameweek 6. You got 56 points. As good week, right? Green Arrow up to 175k in the world. Go for your team for the podcast.
Good week, yeah. Foster in goal, so I went for him over Sanchez, made 1 point on that. Trent Semedo coming in for the first time, I think, ever since I've owned him over the last 2 years. Soufal with 2, Salah 7, Greenwood 2, Sarr 9, who was my transfer, so I was very happy with that. I was debating for ages whether to take out Grealish or Greenwood for Sarr, and it would have made absolutely no difference whatsoever. But got 7 points on that. Benrahma for 3. Tony really starting to deliver now, tick over nicely for his price point, just after everyone sold him. I went for Antonio captain, which I was feeling pretty sick with until the last couple of minutes. And Ronaldo's there with 2 as well. So, I mean, I was between Ronaldo and Antonio, to be honest. I know Antonio only scored Salah by 1, but it's a fairly decent point swing when, those kind of points. Like this week, I made a transfer which got me 7 and made the right captaincy call, which gained me 6. So rarely do I actually get a 13 point in the positive, but this week I did. So yeah, pretty happy.
Indeed. And talk us through that Antonio pick for captain, because there was some beef online about it. And you were deep involved in that. And I was, hoping that he'd come in for you. And he did right in the last minute. So how did you feel when that broke and your choice was somewhat justified by that?
Yeah, well, when Ronaldo blanked, I thought this could be good because he was so highly owned and so highly captained. And then the Leeds game wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was, it was not that many goals, and I thought West Ham would score a couple in that, and I'd given up. To be honest, I saw it was 90. I was in a pub checking flash scores, and 92 minutes in, I was like, it's not going to happen. And then checked my phone again, and there he is. He scored. So yeah, I was absolutely made up. And then I was just hoping kind of Salah stayed quietish. And to be fair, I mean, Liverpool getting 3 goals and Salah only getting 1 of them and no bonus.
Yeah,
I think was about as good as I could have hoped for. So yeah.
To be fair, I think Antonio could have done better, and Salah certainly could have done better.
And
well.
Benrahma. I mean, how Antonio and Benrahma came away. I've watched the highlights since. How they came away with that, with just 1 goal between them, is pretty nuts. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the beef on Twitter is the standard thing. You've got all the people in the Ronaldo. It's too risky to not go for Ronaldo or Salah and all this. It's like. Yeah, and then I don't know if you saw on Friday. Oh, you were there.
We were in there. We were in Spaces, weren't we?
Spaces together,
hosted by FPL Hints Ash, and I was in there like plug-in Fest, of course. But it turned into I knew you were awake. You were on Twitter addressing the beef over the captaincy, and I dragged you in, didn't I? Went and got a cup of tea. I came back, and you'd already been in and had an argument with Ash.
I was at a German beer hall,
right.
And
were you?
I got a beer thrown over me. So I went back to the hotel room, and I was just kind of like wandering around the hotel room, and then I saw that Spaces come up, and I was like, I just got to get involved in this. And yeah, Ash said those words that I hate so much, which was he was captaining a player out of fear of what he'd do, and didn't want to risk it.
And you laid into him, didn't you? I mean, I didn't hear it all, but I came back and everyone was like, "Whoa, it's all kicking off." And it's always good to go into a Spaces for the first time and talk about effective ownership off the back of a beer hall visit. I mean, that's basically perfect conditions, right?
I've just got no chill when it comes to EO, and especially after however many Steins I'd had in that place. He took it well. He took it really well, and and I had some DMs afterwards of people saying not everyone agreed with me, but a lot of people enjoyed it and stuff. So
what?
I can't say anything to them.
Explain me this idea that Antonio wasn't good process. What is behind that? Is it purely that you should always go Salah and Ronaldo due to the ownership, or was there more to it than that?
The two things going around were kind of the price. You know, you pay a premium for your premium players, so you should always captain them, which I don't agree with. And yeah, secondly, the fear that, you know, the others would hurt your rank too much. But I just don't see it like that. I just see it as you captain the player who you think is going to get the most points. I just don't. I think I know people talk about strategy and playing the game differently, and you know, you're competing against others and all that. But I genuinely believe that if you're going to do well in FPL and really get into the top tiers, you need to back what you think is going to happen in a game. We all do the research, we watch games, we watch football, and if I just do what everyone else is doing, I've got no edge. So I'm going to keep playing it that way, and yeah, not always finish highly, but maybe one day break into top 100.
We did say when we looked at the captains, Luke and myself, that this could be a week to look at Antonio, because it was all coming out for him as, you know, he had the personal data, but also Leeds' defensive data was poor. So it did look like a week where you could take a risk on going beyond the heavy hitters. So I thought it was a valid move, particularly given, you know, he's got 5 goals and 4 assists now in 6 starts. It's ridiculous.
Well, this is it. He's
blanked
like
in 1, right?
Exactly. He's a consistent player. Like, his price at the start of the season, no bearing on how consistent he is now in the league. You only have to watch him to see how important he is to the team, how involved he is in the attacks, his confidence, his form, his stats are really good. He's just got everything to be considered as a captain, especially when they've got a game against a patched up side like Leeds were. And I thought Villa and Brentford would actually be quite tough matches for United and Liverpool, and they were.
The thing is as well, it's not just a small sample for anyone screaming at that. You know, it's not just 6 matches of data. We know from last season what Antonio's numbers were, right? When he was fit and playing, he could be considered a heavy hitter level of output, right? And that's what we've seen this season, right? Okay, my team, not so well. I mean, I did say to Luke that I'd be happy with a small red or small green. And I got a small red, went down 2,000 places, I believe, just to 49 points.
Very small red.
Yeah. Look, big at the back. Look at this. Look. Sanchez 2, Trent 1, Alonso 1, Shaw 0. That was my defense. Alonso was my transfer in. And, you know, obviously against City, it was always going to be a long shot that he would get in, I think. But 1 point, very average performance. You know, Chelsea didn't really start as an attacking team until they were 1 down, and then there was some opportunities there, but they were living off scraps, weren't they, most of that game? City was so dominant, the press was so effective, right?
There's not much you can do when they're just playing like that. Like, it's any team's going to struggle, and Chelsea, I just don't think it was surprising, because, you know, Tuchel's obviously got the better of Pep before, but just didn't really have an answer to anything they kind of thrown at them. And you think Chelsea have got stronger, and Lukaku was isolated again, and they just couldn't find a way through. So it was a great performance from City. We both predicted them to lose that game, and they just showed that they're still going to be a force this season. But yeah, I still think the lack of striker is going to cost them.
Yeah, we saw it last night in the Champions League, right? They played well in Paris, but just couldn't find the breakthrough, could they? And they didn't really create a gilt-edged chance against Paris, despite all their fine build-up play. And I do think they're lacking that spearhead, right? And also, I noticed Torres is out of favour all of a sudden. You know, he's talked him up, and suddenly, last 3 games, he's not been on the team sheet, has he? So
they're just trying so many players at that false 9 now. I mean, I think it was Foden, wasn't it, recently?
The second part of it. Sterling started.
Second part, Sterling there. You've got, you know, De Bruyne that can play there. Gundogan can play there. You know, it's such a tricky spot. The only player who I fancy to get regular minutes is Grealish.
Yep, and we'll talk about him later when we get to the wildcards. So Trent, Alonso, Shaw, my defence in front of Sanchez. Then my midfield was Mbomo with 2 points. Salah, my captain, on 14. Jota 7s. Sarr 9 came in again, and Ben Rama, who isn't correctly lined up in that graphic, that's really bothering me, 3 points. Antonio, my vice, on 8. Lukaku just the 2. So it was a. I got away with it because I didn't go into the game week with Ronaldo, right? So I presumed I was going to get some form of red arrow, and I did, and a very small one, so I got away with it. And I was hoping, you know, looking forward to game week 7, thinking, well, I'm well placed. I'm going to have 2 Chelsea defenders. You know, I'm going to be all set. But of course, trouble. You know, I've got problems with injuries and so on. We'll look at that when we look at my team later. Let's look at great and the good, because we are comfortably mid-table now, Az. Look at that. Look at that. You're cosily sitting between Magnus and Les Caldwell. I'm very happy with that. We're 2 points apart. I'm on 424. You're on 422. Is it going to happen, Az? Are you going to turn up next week and you're going to be ahead of me?
surely with the injuries you've got and then the defense, surely this is my week to do it, and that'd be great.
Would be a first, wouldn't it? Right?
It would.
As well, right?
I know. Stop mentioning it every chance you get.
It'll be another celebration. But we'll see.
A monkey off my back, that'll be.
It will be indeed. So I'm on 422, 424. You're on 422. Top of the Great and the Good League. Still Tom Stevenson out on 445 ranked. 26, 158 in the world. And then Slippers. Slippers is second. 438 points, 52,075 rank in the world. You were the only manager to captain Antonio in the Great and the Good League. I was one of 3 to captain Salah, along with Magnus and Les. Everyone else went Ronaldo, which is obviously quite predictable. Interestingly, if we look at the second table, I'm winning on captain point returns, 126, the most of anyone in the league. I'm quite chuffed with that. I'm never doing well on the captaincy picks. Oh, the subs has just gone in with another 100. We're up to 20.2. Thanks very much for that. I normally don't do too well on the captains. So this is progress for me, being up there on that. So I'm pleased with that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Now it's meant to really kick in for me because Lukaku's got his run, but we shall see.
And now everyone's going to be making that. What do you think? Do you think Ronaldo's done enough to not be mass sold for Lukaku? Do you think it's going to be most people going with both of them?
I think the Villa blank might have put a dent in some folks' confidence in Ronaldo. I think Everton is quite a similar fixture to Villa, I think, in that Everton have got it in them to prove some resistance. They'll probably play 3 centre-backs as well, I imagine. They could. I don't think they'll go back 4. I think they'll play the 3 centre-backs as well. I haven't seen Villa's success with it. So I think people will sell. I think anyone with a wild card will go Lukaku, definitely. Yeah. I think others who have got... I think obviously the Trent injury has probably meant that people will probably address that rather than swap Ronaldo to Lukaku, I imagine. So that might work in my favour in that people who were going to make the switch probably won't now because Ronaldo at home to Everton is still a decent fixture, right? So I think that'll be there. You're probably one... You've got the Trent injury and yet you're still going to be able to make that Ronaldo transfer, right?
Well, I have seen someone in the chat saying Soufal's a doubt. So if that's true, then... that could change things. I kind of need... Because I've got Veltman that can come in for Trent, and I know obviously the double Brighton defence isn't ideal, but I still think Veltman has got some attacking potential in him and showed it with the assist for Mopé.
Yeah, what a pass for Mopé, by the way.
Oh, what a goal.
No one made a thing of that when I was like, hold on, can we give credit to that pass? Volleyed over the top of the Palace defence.
I know. If that had been if that was the Rooney and Van Persie goal...
Or Van Dijk's touch or something, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And I know Brighton didn't go top of the league, but... I celebrated that like they had because it's the second game in three where Brighton have got a point in the last minute, which is just not what happens with Brighton. So it's a great moment. I can play both of those. I can do Ronaldo to Lukaku and still get a fairly strong 11 out. Obviously, if I have other injuries that I need, then things might change. But I'm looking at wildcarding over the international break. Right. So we'll have one of our lovely. Boozy nights where we can
over the break.
Talk from a wild card. Yep.
Yep. No, that's fair enough. Okay, let's start looking at our stock check. We're going to look at team data first of all before we go into the position. So as we always do, let's have a look. I put a rank column now down the side. Someone suggested that, and it was a very good suggestion. I don't know why I haven't done it before. Makes it very much easier to read where teams are positioned. Highlighted a few here. Obviously, the City defence. Look at this, ridiculous. 270 minutes per big chance conceded. A chance conceded every 14.6 minutes. That's almost double everybody else. It's crazy. Minutes per XG conceded 190.8. So they're only conceding an XG every 2 games. More than that. And minutes per... Yeah, same. 190.8 for minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. They are miles out in front, despite being ranked only 10th on the ticker going into the 6 matches that this data is from. So they weren't really... given easy fixtures, they were given mid-table fixtures, and yet they're miles out in front defensively. And obviously, we've spoke about how we're going to take notice of that with at least one of their defenders in wildcards, if not 2 now that Trent is out. Just pick out a few more teams here. Brighton and Everton are 3rd and 4th in the defensive data, but they did have the 1st and 2nd best fixtures on the ticker for these 6. So perhaps you'd certainly expect that of Brighton. We saw last season how resolute they were. Everton perhaps less so, but it's interesting that Everton go into the Old Trafford game against Ronaldo as the 4th best defence over this period. So, we can't... I don't think we need to look at that game as an easy game. But then again, Everton did have the best fixture, so it's really.
And the United attack is misfiring, right? At the moment, it's not. They're not. It's not clicking.
No.
For whatever reason, I thought Greenwood was the most dangerous player.
He had 6 shots
in the last game.
in that game.
Yeah. Played well. Like kind of what I want to see more of him doing, having him in my side. But yeah, Everton have been good. They don't look like a team that's going to get torn apart. I think it could potentially be 2 goals for United, but I don't think they're going to score 3, 4, 5 against Everton. They look well drilled and solid, and that's what we thought we'd get under Benitez anyway.
Yeah, and like you said, United haven't got that attacking fluidity yet, and they're learning how to play with Ronaldo. Right, it went well the first 2 games. The Villa game was more in line with what I thought they'd have struggles, as in, Cavani has to come on to lend a bit more of a focal point, and it happened, and it didn't click on the day, and Villa snatched a win. I mean, it was a funny game, but I think there'll be more games like that against the better opponents, and Villa probably are. They're a top 8 team, probably, aren't they? Certainly defensively, and it shows here they're 5th in the table for defence. Minutes per XG conceded non-penalty 96.8, so they're not conceding high XG, and they were only ranked 12th in the ticker, so they had pretty average at best fixtures going into that 6. So they've done well defensively. Chelsea were 18th on the ticker and yet a ranking 6, so they're not second to City, but they did have very tough fixtures going into this run. And then we go further down to quite surprising to see Liverpool only in 10th, considering they were ranked 4th on the ticker. They're conceding a lot of chances, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and they've got an unbelievable goalkeeper who's bailed them out, particularly in the first few matches. That's why their XG conceded is so high, because they've had chances which should easily have gone in, or but Alisson has been superb. And then you've got the Brentford game where it's just such a ridiculously open match of both teams. It's fantastic to watch, but it does make you think, is this the same? Is this like the Liverpool side that were keeping clean sheets like every week when they won the league? Or is it a team that is going to look to outscore opponents more than we've seen, which is great news for like Salah and Jota and Mane and people. But yeah, Trent offers so much. But am I looking at do I think I need to move Trent? Say Trent's out for a while, we don't know who he is. Would I move Trent down to a Robertson or Van Dijk? No. Probably not. No. Don't think they're worth it.
No, that's it. Van Dijk does have the goal for it, and we'll see probably a bit of that later when we look at data. But you're right. I think if Trent wasn't producing as well at the sharp end, we wouldn't be looking at him in the same light, because the defence at the moment isn't suggesting it's an elite top 3 defence. But we'll see. This is 6 matches in, so we'll see. And then you go further down the table. Leeds' defence is the second worst. Only Norwich are conceding XG faster than Leeds at the moment, and they're actually minutes per chance conceded 4.8 is the most of any team. So they're conceding more chances than any other team at the moment, Leeds. We're having to rethink, aren't we, about when teams play them now. We're targeting teams playing Leeds.
Yeah, I just look at their team. I think it's quite a weak midfield anyway, and it's a very weak defence, particularly at the moment. And they're just completely reliant on attacking, and it's just not quite there for them either. Rafinha's stepping up, which is good for people who owned him. I wasn't sure that he could be that kind of reliable FPL option, but he's was back-to-back goals now, and he's been injured out as well. It's typical, isn't it? Like you think, he's got a bit of an injury. Glad he didn't go there, and then loads of people sold him and stuff, and he scores. Not too bad if you move for Sarr, obviously, but yeah, they're just a team that's very, very reliant, I think, on scoring goals. And at the moment, they're not doing that, and they're not keeping clean sheets, and I do worry for them. I said it a few weeks ago, got absolutely slated for it. I really do. I think.
You get slated for everything you say at the moment. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
No, I don't think they're going to struggle in the end, but I'm starting to worry because I'm watching them and they're not free scoring by any means. Bamford's out, of course, at the moment, which isn't helping. Rodrigo and Roberts. How much threat are they going to offer? Rodrigo has shown glimpses, but I'm still not convinced. And so it is on Rafinha, and he's clearly still troubled by the injury. He went off on the hour again, didn't he? So he's not.
Yep.
He's not able to complete a game at the moment. So there's something there that could get worse or could get aggravated in training. So he is still somewhat a risk, but I think he'll still be in wildcard teams. I think he's going to be showing up in mine.
I know they've got injuries, but this is just such a key run for Leeds. The fixtures are so good with Watford, Southampton, Wolves, Norwich, Leicester. That they need to be picking up points in these matches and conceding last minute goals and losing matches to West Ham. shows that they're just a bit far off. And where West Ham were last season, I think, is where people wanted to see Leeds this season, because they wanted them to take that next step up and be top 8, definitely in the top half of the table. And losing like that to West Ham, if they struggle to pick up points in some of these other matches, that goal is going to change. And then is the goal just survive, and then it kind of changes the whole landscape of their season. So I want to see him, starting to pick up some wins.
This is unfortunate, because I looked at this period at the start of the season and thought, well, I'm going to get Bamford and Mafina for that, and it's not necessarily turning out like that. I think Mafina has excelled and done better than I even expected.
Yeah, same.
And I look at these fixtures and think he's got to keep doing that, though, because this is their good run, right? Throughout the season, this is their best run of fixtures. So, it's Watford, Southampton, Wolves, Norwich, Leicester over the next 5. You'd expect them to get returns in that. But I don't think, looking at the team data, defensive returns are going to come anytime soon, regardless of fixture. Let's look at their attack. Leeds are 12th in this. And they did have a tough start, right? It's worth pointing out they're ranked 16th on the ticker going into these 6 matches. So we perhaps didn't expect their attack to be right up there. So 12th isn't perhaps that bad. And like we said, Raphinha has done his best to excel anyway. Elsewhere in his table, Liverpool are that Brentford game, at times, Liverpool were just tremendous in attack, weren't they?
Yeah, and it's Salah is, like I keep saying, Salah just has gone up another level this season. He's just fantastic. He's just such a great player to watch, and I didn't think he could get any better than he did last season, the season before, but he has. He's just such an elite player now, and I think although Van Dijk coming back hasn't made Liverpool, well, they're keeping clean sheets still, but obviously defensive numbers are somewhat down, like you said. But he is key to unlocking everything that's good about Liverpool attack as well, because he gives them that confidence to play out from the back, and and they less tracking back needs to be done because they know he can cover. And it was interesting without Harvey Elliott as well, what would happen.
Curtis Jones has done very well. He's come in.
Jones has really stepped up to it. So he looks, another young player coming in who can help unlock their magic. Well, front four, Firmino's back now, isn't he? 2 goals against Porto as well. You're worried Jota owner as well? Add into your list of potential
I very
risks.
much am. Yeah, I've got to think that. Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute. I think I want to look at his data in particular before we dwell on that. But Liverpool, 21.6 minutes per big chance, the best in the league at the moment. Minutes per chance, 4 minutes per chance. Creating a shot every 4 minutes. Crazy. Minutes per XG non-penalty, 35.4, 0.5 ahead of City in second. And Wolves are still third, hanging on after those first 3 appearances in the first 3 fixtures. But their threat has dwindled since they've been playing teams that have kind of defended deeper, haven't they? We've noticed exactly that.
They're falling into that. Are they a 1-0 team and not much more, because they seem to only be able to win 1-0. But it's great to see Jimenez score his first goal since coming back. Yeah. And I think if they are going to be a 1-0 team, I think he's going to be the one that's going to be getting those ones, because he's done it in the past. I think he's a good option if you've got him. I think you definitely stick with him now, and I think he should kick on.
Yeah, I said with Luke last week that he needs that first goal and then he'll grow from there. And he just looked on it. He looked better all round, I think, in that Southampton game before even the goal went in. And he got what he deserved, really. More on that goal later when we talk about Lukaku in particular. But I want to talk about the teams in 16th and 17th. Brighton and Watford started the season fairly well. Brighton certainly have started very well. But look at the fact that they were ranked second on the ticker. Brighton was second on the ticker and are ranked 16th in attack in terms of minutes per XG non-penalty, 94.6. And Watford are 17th, having been ranked third on the ticker. So in other words, they've had great fixtures, but in attacking terms, not produced great numbers. That's worrying, isn't it? Because obviously you presume that when the fixtures get tougher, it's going to get even worse, and we shouldn't expect too many goals from either Brighton or Watford, right?
We're overperforming, which is the complete opposite of what happened last season. It's quite nice. This is what I mean. These kind of last minute goals are probably not fully deserved when you look at it. But we're playing well, but not really creating that many chances. Mopé though is really stepped up. Right, just in general. I'd completely written him off as an option, but I guess this was the period where you want him to do well because they had good fixtures. But he could be someone who comes in as a 6 million, 6.5 bracket and becomes an option. And I never thought I'd be saying that 6 weeks ago. Watford are just difficult because they're just so reliant on Sarr. And when Sarr's not on it, they don't score. So I'm not entirely surprised. He's just so good. He's just so like, I don't know, Brighton have a lot of like fairly decent players, but none really stand out. Trossard maybe as being kind of maybe
They
the best
haven't
in
got
the
one
side.
individual who can win the game
No.
for them time and time again. Whereas
Exactly.
that's what Sarr is, right?
Yeah, Watford have got an average team with an absolute standout player. So, yeah, two very different sides, but both dangerous in different ways.
But I look at that and think, okay, so they're ranked 17th for minutes per XG non-penalty with the third best fixtures over that period. And I look at the fact that everyone's got on Sarr, and I look at the ticker and Watford's fixtures going forward, and, you know, they're looking at fixtures from week 7 to 12, they're third bottom. Their run now is Leeds, good fixture, right? We knew that when we got Sarr. But after that, it's Liverpool, Everton, Southampton, Arsenal and United. Given that they've struggled to create chances with good fixtures, I'm actually worried that I don't think Sarr would be on my wildcard now. If I was playing it now, I don't think Sarr would be on a wildcard. And I think he's been the most bought player last 2 game weeks, I think. This, if anything, could be the time to get off him, right?
Yeah, it was what I bought him in for these 2 weeks, knowing I was going to be wildcarding in 8 and getting rid of him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Liverpool, Everton aren't easy, and then Southampton, and then Arsenal and United. Do you really want to be playing him in any of those? Like, what's the maximum he gets? I mean, he doesn't. The thing is, he's still a 6 million player, right? He doesn't need to get you a goal in every game. If you came out of that run with 2 goals for him, you'd probably be pretty happy and take that. But when there's other options around 6.5, 6, even going down to like 5.5 now with Gallagher and Bomo there, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he won't be on my wildcard next week. No way. If I was wildcarding this week, I might be tempted to keep him for the Leeds game, but then I'd be looking to move him on for sure.
It's one of the reasons why I'm not keen on wildcarding this week, despite my problems, is that really to wildcard, Sarr would be one of the players gone, and yet I'd be getting rid of him ahead of the Leeds game, which makes
that's
me
what I mean.
That
that's
could be punished, right?
That's why this week that feels just a bit. I mean, you know, you might want to get some Arsenal players in, but they've got Brighton away, which is quite a tricky game. You want to be getting rid of your West Ham players, but they've got a good game this week against Brentford, where I can see goals in that. United, the really tough run for United begins next week. I think Everton, although I've said, okay, they're only going to get 2 goals, but I can still see them getting 2 goals in that game. So do I feel like I need to have a fire sale of all those players this week? No. Wolves as well. I mean, Wolves have Newcastle, then they have Villa, Leeds, Everton, Palace. Like these, I've got Semedo. He probably won't last on the wild card, but I don't want to sell him before Newcastle at home.
No, and obviously getting City defenders is something you want to do in the wild card, and they've got Liverpool away, right? Which in terms of clean sheets is probably the worst fixture you can have if you're City, right? It is. Liverpool the best attacking opponent they can play, and away at Anfield the worst fixture. So you're buying 1 or maybe even 2 City defenders ahead of their worst fixture for a clean sheet. So that's why it doesn't make much sense for me, even though I've got problems.
The only games I can kind of really see goals in this week are Chelsea, obviously, and West Ham, Brentford. So I want to make sure that I've got Lukaku in, and then I want to make sure I've still got my 3 West Ham players. So that doesn't strike me as I need to, because I don't think that the options of that, particularly for this week, are that amazing. But I understand why people are doing it. Yeah, because there's so many. If you've got flags and injuries and doubts everywhere.
Well, if you haven't got Lukaku and you haven't got a Chelsea defender, and you've got Trent and you've got Shaw, then absolutely. I'm only halfway to that though. I've got the Chelsea players in place, so I haven't got that to tip me over the edge. I'm just dealing with the injuries. But looking at the fixtures that are in 7, you're right. The fixtures that West Ham have got, Sarr's got that fixture. I mean, I've got Mbomo. I don't really want to get rid of him at West Ham because West Ham will probably let him have chances. He's getting chances in almost every game, and it's only a matter of time before he takes a couple, I think. So,
and I mean, then he's got Chelsea. It's the same with Tony. I think Tony's actually probably going to survive on my wild card because I've been so impressed with him generally, and his partnership with Mbomo has been amazing. And I've got West Ham. I think West Ham have been awful defence. I mean, at the start of the season, I was backing Soufal to Matt Shaw. I wasn't expecting it to happen like this. With them both
been awful.
Absolutely awful. Yeah. But I kind of got it right, but also not in the way that I anticipated. No. But then Brentford have Chelsea, obviously tough. But then Leicester, Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle. I think I definitely want a Brentford.
No.
Well, I don't think I definitely want a Brentford attacker for that.
So I don't really want to get rid of Mbomo because I want to bench him against Chelsea. That was the plan. And then have him for that 4-game run and maybe even get Tony as well, right? So... I don't know. I'm all mixed up, Az. See if you can add clarity. We're going to look at some player data now, just briefly. Ronaldo no longer top because of that Villa performance. but it's still incredibly impressive. He's third on our minutes per XGI non-penalty data on 76.3. Visser, who got the goal against Liverpool, obviously coming on with very few minutes, is 74.2, and then Mahrez, who's probably going to sit there until he plays again. God knows when that's going to be, in the Premier League at least, on 63.3. Antonio, though, we talk about Antonio and where does he rank in terms of captaincy candidates? Does he rank up there with the heavy hitters? Yeah, the data, look at it. Ridiculous. 5 goals, 4 assists, a shot every 17.8 minutes, second only to Ronaldo so far this season, with more games behind him, and minutes per XGI non-penalty, 100.9. It's incredible data from him, isn't it?
Yeah, and the main thing is it's not just him. I don't sense that he's carrying the team. Like, he's obviously had a massive impact on scoring the goals, but all the players around him are playing well as well. So it's a bit different to like Sarr, where I think, if Sarr could have an off day, then Watford could struggle. I fancy Antonio, even if he wasn't having the best day, I still think he'd get an assist or a goal, because players around him are going to create chances for him and set him up. And they're just a really, really good side, West Ham. And defensively, it hasn't really been working, but offensively, they are fantastic. So I look at West Ham in any fixture outside of like Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, and I genuinely think he is someone I would consider at the moment.
And even this week against Brentford, you wouldn't bet him scoring again. We can't take. He's going to be in the conversation every week, isn't he?
It's going to be an open game. That I'm sure it is. I think both teams are really going to be going for that. It's the match that I'm most looking forward to this weekend. And if I wasn't moving Ronaldo to Lukaku, I think it would be Antonio again for captaincy, because Salah's got City. Who else is there that really stands out? There isn't. Maybe Jimenez against Newcastle, but I don't think he's that much of a better option than Antonio is. So unless you go for Salah in that tricky fixture, or maybe because what we really wanted to see was a Chelsea midfielder, like just really kind of leaping to the fore, wasn't like a Havertz or a Mount, really kind of pushing us to be like, okay, this is the guy. But it's just so obviously two Chelsea defenders and Lukaku now.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got Lukaku, you go for Ronaldo, I guess, against Everton, but not that inspiring. But Antonio should if you've got Ronaldo and Antonio and no Lukaku, I would strongly advise that you at least consider Antonio.
Yeah, he could run in close if not beat him again.
Yeah.
We're going to look at Chelsea later, but we're going to look at Arsenal because they, their performance against Spurs was very encouraging. Obviously, they've won 3 on the spin now. They go to Brighton next. But the likes of Smith Rowe and Saka, and credit to Andy, FPL Mode, who had Saka with his wildcard that he played 2 weeks ago. I was sceptical about it. But early adopter, right? He's on that, head of the curve. Saka came in big time, and now Saka's starting to pop up in wildcards, and he's in my thinking as well. He's got to be, right? As is Smith Rowe in a lot of managers' wildcards this week as well. So we've got Arsenal's fixtures here. Brighton next, then it's Palace at home in game week 8, Villa at home in game week 9, Leicester away in 10, Watford at home in 11, Anfield, Liverpool in game week 12, Newcastle at home in game week 13, and United away game week 14. It's the home games that appeal to me. It's the Palace, Villa, Watford, Newcastle, 4 at home in the next 7. They look good, don't they, those home games?
Yeah, they do. Did you see the stat about Saka and Smith Rowe, that the only players that have set each other up more before the age of 25 were Ronaldo and Rooney?
Right.
And Saka and Smith Rowe are both midfielders, and both only really broke into the team quite recently as well. So they're clearly 2 players who enjoy playing with each other. That sounds a bit weird, but you know what I mean. They enjoy playing on the pitch with each other.
Yes.
Yeah. But Saka would be the one that I'd pick for sure out of these. Down to 6'2" now from 6'5". He's always been a player that's had good underlying stats. I think the problem was we never really knew where he was going to play. Like, he used to feature at left back at times, in central midfield, occasionally push up the pitch. But now I think he's really starting to cement that, that kind of attacking midfielder type role. So I think the stats he's had in the past suggest that he can go on and do some really good things. He can be a consistent player and also get some explosive returns as well. I really like him. 6'2" is a bargain.
Yeah, and we were talking about Sarr, right? And we were talking about the fact that perhaps this is the time to get off him after Leeds. Well, Saka's sitting there from game week 8 with 4 home games in the next 6 from game week 8 that look great, with form, confidence, if form's a thing, but with confidence, should we say. Saka for me looks to be the one to go for. Smith Rowe, though, 5'3", if you need to save money, it's not a bad downgrade, is it?
No, it's not. You could even get him and have him as a kind of a rotating fifth midfielder who because this is the thing. Like, I know obviously the big at the bat didn't work out last week, but I still think you can make a case of having 2 Chelsea and 2 City from next week, and that's not including Trent. So you could have Trent, 2 Chelsea, and then a Man City defender. Play your 4, and then Smith Rowe is perfect just to sit there and come in kind of if and when you want to, use that midfield spot. So a lot of merit in it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would want.
It's just the minutes with him, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, but I think he's protected. I think it was interesting that Pepe got dropped, and it was Smith Rowe and Saka taking the wide roles with Odegaard down the middle in the 10 and Aubameyang up front. Of course, that's their strongest side, and I think Pepe will come in now and again, and one will make way. I guess if one does make way, it probably is more likely to be Smith Rowe, but. I still see that being their strongest team. And
is Lacazette just finished now? Then
he hasn't had a minute yet, has he? Right, so he
played 31 minutes against City,
right.
But yeah,
he's not bizarre. A factor. What do you think about Aubameyang as an option? 9.9 now. He's not really been in the conversation at all. But if anything, if you were going Kane or Aubameyang, it'd be the Arsenal player right now, wouldn't it?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, there's about 10 strikers that I'd put above Kane, and I don't think that's necessarily saying Aubameyang is a fantastic option. Yeah, I don't know. I just think I just don't really know why you would do it when you could get Saka for 6.2. It just seems like a lot of money to put in that. I mean, you've got Gabriel Jesus at what 9.6 or something.
He's not even that now, is he? Is he not 8.9 or something like that?
Has he gone down even further? He's 8.6.
Yeah.
Jesus. I know he's playing the poo, I like to call, reverse out of position, but still, he looks like he's got the trust of Pep now. And if you wanted to tap into that City attack, he might be a bad idea. I mean, even Jamie Vardy as well. Jamie Vardy's there at 10.4, so a bit more than Aubameyang, but he's on 40 points this season. He's had 2 double-digit returns, 8 points, only 2 blanks. Leicester haven't been clicking, but they've got Palace, Brentford, Leeds coming up. I think these are players who, because Aubameyang's a punt, right? But
definitely.
I think I'd go for those 2 over him if I was having a punt.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention him because I can pronounce it at last. Tierney. Tierney in defence then. Ordinarily, I'd say he's an excellent option. Like he's 4.9, good price, right? Yep. You got to look at it. It's like only 0.5 more than a Veltman or something like that. 0.4 more than your 4.5s. You'll get the Arsenal defence, which is improving with those good home fixtures coming up. And Ramsdale is one that is catching the eye for in goal. But if you're not going Ramsdale with a wild card, Tierney's got to be someone you consider. The big thing with him is injuries, though, right?
Yeah, and at a time, if you're going to be grabbing the likes of Alonso and Cancelo, and you've got an injured Trent and all this, like, do you really want to be bringing in a player who's almost certainly going to get injured at some point? It is. I know it is. I mean, the thing is as well, though. I mean, he's shown so much promise this season. Like his stats are so good, but not really delivering. He's a bit kind of like Semedo. He's frustrating. I think he's going to hit a big haul at some point, but I think you're going to have to put up with a lot. And I'm just not entirely sure that I want to go there. I just think with the fixtures, you're going to want 2 Chelsea defenders. You're going to probably want to keep Trent. So the only way you can really get Tierney is if you go 4 at the back. And then that's ignoring like Cancelo or Diaz or maybe even Laporte or someone. Yeah. So
I looked at it, but
he's a good option.
Livramento is such a good 5th defender. It's hard to actually justify going up to a Tierney for a 5th defender, and you're not going to play 5 at the back. So Tierney's the player coming in if Cancelo doesn't make it or Alonso doesn't make it, I guess. But it's a shame because he's got a lot to offer, I think, and he has impressed in patches. He hasn't had a consistent run yet, but you just don't see him having that because in 2 or 3 game weeks' time, he'll probably break down again, which is a real shame.
I know. I think he's a good option. Like if I saw someone with him in their team, I would be thinking, oh yeah, nice. I like that. But yeah, there's other defenders that I want a bit more.
Yeah. Well, we'll look at them in a sec. We're going to look at goalkeepers. I mentioned Ramsdale. So we're looking at keepers here, sorted by XG prevented. That is basically expected goals prevented. It's kind of a measure of the quality of shot that they've saved. And quality of chance that they've saved. And Mendy, right now, the Chelsea keeper, is right out in front, 1.9 XG prevented. So effectively, he has made saves that he wasn't expected to make, and that kind of indicates
pretty much all from that Villa game. He was absolutely ridiculous.
And Alisson, as you alluded to, has been called upon a lot by Liverpool. He's second on 1.4.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, that's not necessarily the data that we're interested in with keepers. It's not just that. We know that Mendy and Alisson will keep clean sheets. As will obviously Ederson, who's further down the list in 8th. for XG prevented at 0.4. It's more about minutes per save, minutes per baseline BPS, because it's bonus points that we want as well from our keeper, and save points. And you're kind of looking for a sweet spot, aren't you? And that's where, you know, Ramsdale, who's ranked 5th at the moment for XG prevented, he promises save points as well. Minutes per save 38.6, which isn't that great at the moment, but you just sense that he is a shot stopper and he's going to get plenty of shots fired his way, right?
Yeah, and it's the price as well. I mean, he's added into the mix as a 4.5 goalkeeper at a time when Brighton's fixtures are turning a bit, and who else really is there? I mean, there is Greater, I suppose, but I think Arsenal are starting to show signs that the kind of the defensive transfers they've made might start to pay off. And I've always rated Ben White. It's been good to see him partner with Gabriel, and that always seemed like a good partnership, like that could work well, because you've got the big strong guy and the good passer, and the way Arsenal like to play, they complement each other quite well. I've got to admit, I wasn't that sure about Ramsdale coming in. I didn't think he was as significant of an upgrade as Leno as maybe they needed. Like Martinez probably would have been. I would have said, oh, if you give them the choice now, you're obviously picking Martinez. But if you ask Arsenal fans who you rather have, Ramsdale or Leno, it's probably a bit more of a 50-50 split. But yeah, he's come in, and is it a coincidence that it's coincided with 3 wins since he came in? Probably not. He's done a good job.
Yeah, and it's his presence as well. And I think we've just got to watch for him in a wild card. I think he is one of the favourite keepers. I think Jose Sar's the other one. And again, we've got to give Andy credit here, because he had him on FPL mode, had Sar, and I was kind of like, what have you done there? Spent 5 million on a goalkeeper, and he turns up with an assist and maximum
attacking
bonus.
Machine.
Yeah, and looking at this data, you know, he's interesting. Like he's ranked 4th overall for XG prevented. Minutes per save 27, which isn't bad at all. Minutes per base on BPS 5.9, good as well, right? So he's a keeper that will save shots, will get you save points, is in the mix for bonus points as well. And obviously Wolves' fixtures are still quite strong, right? So you've got clean sheet potential there as well. It's the 5 million tag low. Would you go to a 5 million keeper?
I think all things considered, he's the best option. He's the best keeper to own, I think, at 5 million. But like you say, it is that 0.5. I don't like to spend 5 million on a goalkeeper. It just never really feels right. I made a bit of an exception last year with Mendy when he was 5, because it felt you were tapping into like an elite defence, and it was okay. I mean, it got better when Tuchel came in, but if Wolves are going to be this kind of 1-0 team, that's absolutely perfect for Sarr, because he's going to carry on getting bonus. He's going to get loads of clean sheets. The fixtures are good, and he will justify it. But I think if Ramsdale keeps his place at 4.5, he would be the one that I'd go for.
Yeah, I mean, this is saying Mendy's the one. Minutes per save 25, right? Minutes per BPS 5.5, and he's an excellent keeper, excellent shot stopper. But I guess, you know, we're looking at 2 Chelsea defenders because we want to find 2 with attacking promise as well, and they are there, right? You know, you've got to look at Alonso, James, to an extent Rudiger, Azpilicueta as well has some attacking promise too. So Mendy at 6 million just doesn't appeal, does he? But the data suggests that he's the best option. But I don't see many wildcards going there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you're getting a 6 million goalkeeper, they have to massively outperform the others.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mendy's on 28 points, Sar's on 28 points. At a million less. I mean, Raya's only got 1 less point than him, and he's 4.6. So the only exception to the 6 million was that year when De Gea went absolutely mad.
Yeah. And
he was making like 9 saves a game. And
he had about 30 save points, didn't he? 30 bonus points.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. But I just think unless a goalkeeper is doing that they're just not worth the money. I mean, maybe Martinez might have been worth it last season if he was, if his price only went up to 5.5, something like that, like it is now. But even he's not getting those regular double-digit returns. For 6 million, you need to be getting big scores. And Chelsea can blow teams away. I still think 3 or 4-0 is could happen, especially in the run they've got.
Yeah.
And that means no bonus for Mendy. It probably means that he's not going to make many saves.
Good point.
Yeah, so he's not for me too much.
Interesting that Melia down in 20th in this for XG prevented, but he is exactly what we build him as. This is a goalkeeper who's making the most saves and getting the most BPS. Yeah. He's 19.3 minutes per save. Only Darlow has made saves more often, and only Darlow can beat Melia for minutes per baseline BPS. 4.6 for Darlow, 4.7 for Melia. So it's clear from this to me that if Leeds can sort themselves out defensively, get their first choice team out again, Melier is still going to be the option that I want to look at maybe for the second half of the season.
Yeah. It's the thing is, will they have their first team back in time to complement the run that they've got, or is it going to be week on week? Being a patched up team out. Again, I still think he's a good option. I think the goalkeeper decision on a wild card is a really interesting one. I think you can go lots of different ways. You can go for Melier, have him as a kind of a set and forget until January, and say, okay, they're going to get their players back. They're going to start looking better defensively, and he's going to carry on making those saves. Or you go cheap and go for Ramsdale, or you go for Sarr. They're the three for me. I think Sanchez is just someone that he's done okay. He got a bonus point, didn't he?
He did, and that's down to minutes per recovery, by the way, of which he's ranked 5th overall. The recovery is not the saves for him, and obviously the passing points as well. Like, he gets high passing in BPS because he gets the ball a lot and it comes through him a lot. So that's interesting. That's a development from last season, right? Sanchez was never really a bonus magnet at all. He's got better in that respect.
And again, it's Brighton. If Brighton aren't going to score too many goals and they're going to rely on quite low scoring games, it always favours like the goalkeepers. So I don't suddenly think that he's a bad option. It's just the fixtures aren't as good as Ramsdale's, and he's the same price. So I think you probably just go with him, assuming that Ramsdale is just going to carry on playing and Leno's just drop now.
Yeah, but you go Ramsdale and Foster as backup, which is the very popular partnership I'm seeing. But I'm seeing Sarr in teams as well. It's that kind of combination at the moment.
Do you remember at the end of last season, though, when they just started like rotating goalkeepers around, and Scott Carson came in for a bit, and Kepa came in, and hopefully that doesn't start happening again. If I'm worried, if I'm looking at rotation, I think Arsenal is the one that I'm a little bit concerned with, because Arteta could one day be like, look, Leno, you're not completely out of the picture. Here, come in. Here's a chance to impress or whatever.
And play in a couple of games,
yeah, exactly. If you haven't got a backup goalkeeper, then obviously you won't get any players out.
Yeah. Okay, this is defenders, and this kind of like underlines just where Trent is. I mean, it's him getting the injury is such a blow because he means so much to us as a fancy asset. This table is sort of our minutes per XGI non-penalty. And Trent Alexander-Arnold 145.6, Reece James is close to him 154.5. Those two both injured at the moment. They are by far and away the most attacking defenders we've seen so far this season. You've got Cancelo and you've got Matt Ritchie who are creating chances and getting forward as well, but not to the level that Trent and Reece James are offering at the moment. It's a big blow, isn't it, not having him? I mean, first of all, not only for our fantasy, do you think it's going to dent Liverpool's attack, not having him in the team?
Well, yeah, definitely. You're taking out effectively their most creative player. The thing with Liverpool is they've obviously got the great front three, but they don't have that Coutinho type player or that Fabregas or that kind of player that really unlocks teams. I think a lot of people were thinking that was going to be Thiago, but it hasn't really happened like that for him. And I think they obviously rely on Robertson and Trent a lot. So taking one of those out is definitely gonna harm them. Who came in for him? It was Milner, wasn't it? Milner played a right back
last night. Yeah.
Yeah. So Milner, bless him, is an unbelievable player. Amazing career. But if you're looking at a player to thread a pass or do a cross, you're going to be backing Trent over Milner. So it's
anyone. He's out in front in the Premier League. Yeah,
of course he is. Yeah.
So it's a big loss to us. But looking down this table at the players in the top 10, Alonso and Cancelo show up really well. Cancelo in 5th in this table for minutes per XGI on penalty, 310.3. And what he's got also, he's playing in a defence that have conceded 5 shots on target this season in 6 matches, which is ridiculous. And then Alonso, who we know if he can hold down that starting role, will be a gift to us. Minutes per shot, 48.7. Not that high at the moment. He has done better than that, but we know the goal threat is there. We see him in the build-up, in the penalty area, even in the 6-yard box, right? So we know what he can do for us. It's just whether or not he's going to nail down those starts. It looks like he has. But what's your thoughts on this? Because, I haven't really talked to you about it because I got Alonso in last week when Luke was here. Where do you see it at the moment between Alonso and Chilwell?
It's very hard to know what's happening with Chilwell. Obviously, Chilwell played in the cup game. Tuchel shouted at him a lot. Didn't seem happy with his performance. He then missed a penalty. Hasn't been seen since. Rumours going around that his mental health is suffering after the Euros, and there's lots of kind of ifs and buts. And Alonso on the other hand has been playing every match, been made captain for a game, playing in the wing back formation where he's well, he's one of the best in the world. Like, genuinely, like
he's certainly one of the best in the Premier League in that position.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So he strikes me as a kind of player that I could avoid for ages and look back on and kick myself because the signs are there that he's going to carry on starting. But equally, I wouldn't want him as my only Chelsea defender.
No.
I think a double up of Alonso and Rudiger is the way to go. That's what I'm going to be looking to do, because I think at least then you've got the fallback option of having the Chelsea defender playing in Rudiger, but then you're tapping into the thing. What you've got with James and Alonso would probably give me sleepless nights, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, Rudiger's coming in for me, and that was all. I think Rudiger and Alonso are going to be the pairing we see in a lot of wildcards, right? I think to wildcard and not go Alonso would be showing perhaps too much caution, because surely in the wildcard you can build a team which can absorb having Alonso, and I would put Cancelo in the same bracket. I think Alonso and Cancelo, going into the season, we thought they're brilliant players who offer attacking threat, but they're not nailed on. And everything we've seen so far with the team sheets has contradicted that and said, no, they're more nailed on than we think.
Yeah.
Because, Cancelo's played every league game so far, as has Alonso, right? He hasn't. Neither of them have ended up on the bench in a league game as yet. It's not going to happen for Cancelo at Anfield, surely. It might happen for Alonso at home to Southampton. That's the thing. So I guess we've got to see what. But I think if you're wearing the wildcard, you've got to go in for both of those two, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty sensible to do that. I just find it hard to talk about because I just don't know what Tuchel thinks of Chilwell or Alonso. Like, he seems. I mean, he did it with Rudiger, didn't he? He came in. Rudiger was an outcast. He came in, put his arm around him, straight in the team. Hasn't looked back since. He's done kind of the same with Alonso. I mean, under I think it was a loss Chelsea had, and was it Lampard didn't even let him on the bus or something going home? And it looked like
that the
his
West
career
Brom game, because it was dreadful.
Yeah. And again, it looks like Tuchel's coming in, and and from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like he particularly has Chilwell in a massively high regards over Alonso, for example. So I don't think Alonso's days are numbered. I think at the moment it's just his spot to lose, and I think that's the same with lots of players that you're going to want to get in your team. It doesn't mean you should avoid them just because there's a decent player waiting in the wings.
No, I think my take on Alonso is because he's playing the wing back system. I don't think we should see Alonso's shirt as a defensive player anymore, right? Because Chilwell is a better defender, but that doesn't come into it when the main purpose of that position is to contribute to the attack. And if that is how Tuchel sees the left wing back role, there is no argument that Alonso is ahead of Chilwell in that department.
Yeah.
I mean, and I look back at the data, and the data shows that the gap isn't that big, but I think it is. I mean, I think on the pitch, Alonso causes defences much more problems than Chilwell does, right?
He's unplayable. He's unplayable.
At times he can be, yeah.
he's here, he's back, he's everywhere. He's got the set pieces as well, which is, I mean, obviously Mount can do a good set piece.
But Mount's injured, right? So that's the other reason why I think he could play at Southampton. Yeah.
But if you're looking at direct free kicks in that Chelsea team, you want Alonso over it. I would say. The other thing that I like about going with Alonso and Rudiger is I don't think Alonso will come on very often. I mean, if Chilwell plays, maybe they could bring Alonso on to add a bit of extra attack, but it's more like with the attacking options like Pulisic on the bench and Hudson-Odoi and these guys are probably going to be the ones that come on. So I don't think Alonso's going to see too many 20 minutes, 30 minutes when he's playing. So I look at Livramento at 4.2 now, who pretty much everyone's got. His run of fixtures coincides with Chelsea's perfectly because they've got Chelsea this week, but then Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Villa, Norwich. So if you've got Alonso and he does miss 2 of those games, you've got a 4.2 million option who's going to come in and probably do a decent job for you.
Yeah, and Livermento's not ranked badly on this table. He's down in 40th, which sounds awful, but that's ahead of Creswell. It's ahead of Dina. Yeah. I mean, Creswell and Dina are players at the start of the season we thought, they were offering attacking promise. Not that great. I mean, Dina, minutes per XGI non-penalty, 818.2. That shows you that he just hasn't got forward as much as we'd expect. He has put crosses in.
They don't need to. They don't really need him to do that because they've got Gray and they're playing
wingers, natural wingers,
playing natural wingers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's not happening for Dina. And Creswell has relied on set pieces to some extent, and that's not happened for him yet. I mean, it could at any time. I do think he's still a decent option, but you are going to look Livramento as your 5th defender. So for me, this is cut and dry. Like you go 2 Chelsea defenders. If you're not going to keep Trent in the wild card, you go 2 City defenders as well, Diaz and Cancelo. You go Livramento the 5th, and you either save some money or have an exit plan to get Trent back. that's probably what many are going to do, and it's very hard to argue against that and look outside of that.
I'll tell you who's going to be very happy to hear you say that, and that is Gianni, because I did the team reveal with him earlier, and he showed me his wildcard team, and that's exactly what he's done. 2 Chelsea, 2 City, with enough cash in the bank to move back to Trent.
Well, I'll show you mine in a bit, so to speak. Chelsea defenders, which 2 should we go to? And we looked at this last week with Luke, and I filled it out with tonight's game as well. And it shows that, they've gone first choice tonight. Azpilicueta, Christensen, right centre-back, Silva in the middle, Rudiger on left, and Alonso left wing-back. Christensen's an interesting one, right? Because I think in many ways James's injury cements his role now, because we know Silva's not going to play every game. So Christensen's either going to fill in at central centre-back, or with Azpilicueta at right wing-back, he's going to be right centre-back. So I think, if you need to save money, going Christensen over Rudiger for now could be a sensible move. But Rudiger offers you a bit of goal threat at set pieces where Christensen is next to nothing. I think he's had 1 touch in the box, in the opponent's box so far. So I think he is certainly an option for your Chelsea defender if you don't want to go Rudiger. I mean, the data's here. If your minutes per shot, 450 minutes per shot compared to 135 for Rudiger. So you can see Rudiger's got that little bit more goal threat than Christensen. But if you look at minutes per BPS, Christensen 5.9 is bettered only by Chalobah and Azpilicueta and Thiago Silva. So Christensen is better than Rudiger for bonus points as well, right? So it might be worth that 0.7 saved, right?
Yeah, and I think, if you're going with Ronaldo and Lukaku up front and keeping Trent, we've talked about this in previous episodes, like you need to save money in places. Like it's the only way you're going to do it. And paying 5 million for a Chelsea defender is a good way of saving a substantial amount of cash, right? And you could even go for Rudiger and Christensen and avoid Alonso and James altogether. And because would I want to go for Christensen and Alonso? I still worry that they could both miss out. Like 1 week. I think Rudiger just gives you that real security. I like Christensen as an option, but I still think Rudiger's worth the extra money because he's got the goal for it and he'll definitely play. Yeah. You just don't want to be missing Chelsea defenders with this run they're on, because this is why we want to bring him in. And I think you can save money in places, but I'd make Chelsea the priority for this run and just get in the best 2 defenders. And to me, the best 2 defenders are Rudiger and Alonso by considerable margin.
Now, if you look at Alonso's data here, you're getting a cross every 21.4 from open play. That's as well as the corners on top of that, which he is taking while Mount is out. And he's getting a shot in the box every 90 minutes, right? So you're going to get a shot in the box and, 4 or 5 crosses from open play, plus corners, plus any direct free kicks on top of the clean sheet, right? He may not get you bonus because, the likes of Christensen and Azpilicueta are doing better for BPS, but if he gets you any form of attack in return or any of those open play crosses connect, he is going to get bonus. So it's so strong, isn't it? While James is out, I think you've got to take that risk on Alonso and then back it up with Rudiger. I think that makes sense. But it's going to be fascinating whether Chilwell comes in at Southampton. I've got a feeling he won't. I'm biased because I've got Alonso, but I just think with the international break, Alonso doesn't go away for that. So he knows he's going to get that time off. Chilwell probably will get that time off as well because he's not going to go join the England camp. So I think that I just think he's too important to them. And he will. I think Tuchel will look at the fact that Southampton got the 0-0 at City as well, right? So he can't take Southampton lightly. He knows that they're going to put up a defence and probably a low block that they're going to have to break down. So why would you not pick one of your best attackers in Alonso for that game?
Yeah. And I think like we talked about with the set pieces as well, I think you need someone in the team who can, if you've got a stubborn, Southampton team, one of the best ways to win it is with the direct free kick. They get a free kick around the edge of the box, and Alonso isn't playing. Who's going to step up and take it if Mount isn't on the pitch as well?
Well, they're weak in the air, Southampton, and they didn't look convincing at set pieces against Wolves, and they haven't got big dominating centre backs. Bednarek and Salisu don't look like they're up to the job of handling Chelsea, in my opinion. And I think Alonso, if he's playing with his set plays, could get something from that, but. I don't know.
I guess they could play really Ziyech, couldn't they? I mean, he could shuffle the pack quite a lot.
Yeah, he could play Hudson-Odoi on the right, which might be all the attack he needs, and then he could play Chilwell perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's a risk, isn't it? Not going with your first choice wing backs in a game where you need to win, right? Because you just lost to City, and Southampton have already got a draw at the Etihad.
And you've got the international break to come to give players a rest as well.
So it's going to be really interesting. It's hard to call.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's
tough, but I'm going that Alonso will start. Midfielders, let's look at those. Obviously, always an interesting area. And this is where I just want to talk about Liverpool's dominance of this. This table is sort of a minutes per XGI non-penalty. And the top three midfielders are Mane, Salah and Jota. Absolutely dominant. And they're top five for... the top five players for each of the stats are highlighted in blue here. So Mane, Salah and Jota are top five. Well, Salah's top five for four of these categories. Incredible. We're all five.
That's ridiculous.
It's just absolute fantasy animal this season. He's not letting us down in any way, and his data is just... It's too... Like, some seasons or some periods of the season you think, actually, can you go without Salah? There's no way. There's no way it looks... that at any point this season, if he keeps this up, do we ever think that?
Yeah, but it's it's playing City this week. I'm seeing that as an opportunity to go with someone else because I almost feel like we're not going to get too many opportunities to do it. And okay, I might have taken a bit of a risk with it against Brentford, but I wasn't expecting that to be 3-3 in all honesty, and it was much more open than I thought it was. I thought Brentford would at least try and shut them down a bit, but no, just went toe to toe with them. Great game, but. Yeah, I think Salah is just becoming such a just nothing to do with EO, just to do with these stats, to do with the fixtures, to do with everything, and the fact that Liverpool's attack is just clicking so well. It's just you've got to consider him every week, and yeah, outside of this City game, it could often just be an easy choice to go for him.
And Jota in there again, like the Alonso Chilwell thing. How do you see this going with Firmino? Because I just look at Jota's data, and we know when we did the Ronaldo data, didn't we, that. Wow, Jota last season, ridiculous stats when he actually played. And I look at it again this season, and Firmino, I think so far this season, is having a shot every 50 minutes. So you're getting more shot output from Jota, or Klopp will get more shots on goal out of Jota. Probably, the data suggests that. We know that Firmino has struggled last season for goals, whereas Jota, although he misses chances, probably has more goal threat, in my opinion. Do you share that? I mean, do you see it? How close do you think it is between Jota and Firmino to start?
I wouldn't be surprised if all four played against City. He did it last season, and he just went for it and just played them all. It is a tricky one because they either play together or they're in direct competition. Salah and Mane are just unaffected by it, and it's just a straight up battle between Firmino and Jota. But Jota's 7-7. I don't think it doesn't matter. He can play 20-30 minutes one week, he can play 90 the next, and you're still going to get value out of him because third on the list of all midfielders is incredible. So he is going to annoy you, he is going to frustrate you. I think he will share minutes with Firmino because that is what they do, but ultimately he should still deliver good points for 7-7.
Yeah, because what's interesting, right, is Grealish is in wildcards, right? But if you look at Jota's numbers compared to Grealish, he's having double the number of shots per match. He's having double the number of shots in the box per match. He's having more than double the number of big chances per match. And his XG is, let's say his XGI is 110 to Grealish on I'd say not quite so much. But so it suggests that even if Grealish plays every 90 minutes and you're only going to get 1.3 games out of Jota, like he plays 30 minutes in the second game, it's not a cut and dry, given that Grealish is 8 million and Jota's 7-7. So it's very, very tight. I mean, I personally, I'm favouring sticking with Jota and waiting to see how Klopp works it with Firmino. You say there that Mane and Salah are untouchable. I don't think Mane is. I think Jota and Firmino will start and Mane will be benched on some occasions this season.
Yeah, I mean, Mane top of these lists is still interesting though.
Yeah,
because again, I mean, played well against. I mean, they all played well against Porto. Porto just gave up after about 5 minutes, and there's still been so many matches this season where I've watched Mane and just thought, is he done? Like, is he finished as an option? I think I said in the chat to you and Luke, like maybe it's time they did cash in, and if Real Madrid did come in with like an £80 million bid, maybe you just say see you later and sign someone else, someone younger, and play Jota there until they're up to speed. But you look at these stats and you think, wow, like he is still such a threat.
Matching Salah, look,
right?
For shots and shots in the box, it's matching Salah.
And It's the clinical side of his game seems to have gone massively downhill compared to where it was a few seasons ago. But in terms of overall play and overall contributions, it doesn't seem like he has been that affected. I am surprised to see him so high on this list, because it doesn't match up with what I've seen in the Liverpool games, where I watch him and think, oh no, he's missed another chance, done another thing. But of course, these stats are based on what's happening on the pitch, so it's encouraging, I think, for a Liverpool fan. But yeah, I think you're probably right. I think maybe Mane isn't as untouchable as Salah is. Jota though, yeah, I mean, you look at these numbers and you just think, why wouldn't anyone own him?
Yeah, exactly. 7-7 for that return. Yeah. I just think he's too good. And I do think Liverpool are more potent with Jota in the team. Particularly when Mane is not finishing as well as he has done in previous seasons. I think Klopp will need Jota on the pitch. And I wouldn't be surprised if Firmino does start against City. But I also wouldn't be surprised if after 60 more minutes, Jota's on the pitch because Liverpool are 1 down. And Jota could still end up getting something. If Liverpool score... For me, if Liverpool score, Jota... He's not too far behind Mane and Salah in the reckoning to get points, right? We've seen it in matches, right? Salah's probably miles ahead of everybody else, but in that Liverpool team, it's tight between those three in any given game, I think.
It is, but I don't see a Liverpool goal go in and immediately think, oh, that's going to be Jota. Like, he still frustrates, right? He frustrated a lot towards the end of last season. His stats are up here as they were. And, you know, I've talked about Rafinha in the past not being, you know, what I think like a reliable, consistent FPL option. Even though I watch him play and I think he's an absolutely unbelievable player, still, like, points wise, I had my doubts that he's kind of, you know, with 2 hour attacking returns in when he's injured as well. It seems to be maybe I was wrong about that. But Jota's another one where I think he's underpriced. I'm not saying for a second that he's not underpriced. I think he could easily be 9 million and people would still pay it. But I do wonder if he's ever going to be really consistent. I mean, he's got 3 goals in 6. I mean, it's not bad. But
I mean, Raya denied him with a save of the season as well, so he could have come out of that Brentford game with 2 goals. Really, I mean, I don't know. I think he'll be needed. Klopp. I don't think Klopp can start too many games without him. I personally think not while Mane's still trying to get back to his best. I think Jota's important to them. I don't know. Maybe Firmino will come in and fly. He got 2 goals last night, although they were gifts, but. Also, I look at Firmino and think, is he ready to start the City game? Any other opponent, I'd say, yeah. But City, throwing him in that game, I don't know, he hasn't looked that sharp in the 2 appearances off the bench I've seen so far. But again, it's like the Alonso thing. It's such a hard one to call. And I think if you're wildcard him, I think in my favour this week, anyone wildcard him probably won't go Jota. So I think it's another reason why not wildcarding and holding Jota could, you just never know, might come in, he might get something, but it's whether Liverpool can score against a team that have only conceded 5 shots all season on target. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Let's talk about... I was just going to say quickly that I think the big decision was for a lot of people was Greenwood or Jota. And I think Jota is now comfortably ahead Since Ronaldo arrived, I think that's the case. Yeah. Even though Greenwood showed up in that Villa game, I still think it's only a matter of time before Greenwood starts losing minutes as well. Because it seems like Pogba on the left, and then you've got 1 slot to get Sancho, Rashford or Greenwood in the team. Yeah. And Lingard. And they're not in the EFL Cup anymore. So I just don't see Greenwood being nailed on for too much longer. I think it's still his shirt to lose, but I think he will get rotated soon. Gallagher is 5th on this table. I watched him the other night. He's lost some set pieces to the Milivojevic. Did well with that one.
Very good.
But he's in a lot of wild cards, right? What's your feeling on him?
Yeah, I really like him. These 6 million, 6.5 million mids are just so good this season. I mean, Rafinha, Sarr, and Bremo's on there. You know, Decore, Gray, Gallagher. These are all really cheap options, and it's made the 3 premium and Trent doable in a sense. We still have our doubts about whether we think it's the best way to play, but you know, without them, you would be really struggling to do it. And I think Gallagher is probably my favourite of the 6 million and unders. Yeah, I think Saka's there at 6.2, who I'd go for. But if I was looking for 6 million or under on a wild card, I think it would be Gallagher. Yeah.
The only thing that puts me off, I look at Palace's fixtures, and then they just never have a run.
No, I know.
Which is absolutely a gimme. Like, they've got this little run here with Newcastle at home in 9, City away, then it's Wolves and Burnley. Okay, that's not bad. 3 or 4 are good. But if you look at their fixtures long term, there's never a spell where you go, that's where I'm going to get Gallagher in.
But does it matter? Because I mean,
No,
if you're wildcarding, you don't want to be touching that 5, 7, 6 million midfielder. Like in some ways, it's quite nice that it kind of goes one up, one down, because then you can just think, okay, he's got a bad fixture this week, but then next week it's going to be, if he had a good run and then a bad run, you'd then be wanting to take him out for the bad run, then he'd be losing a transfer on a 5, 7 mid. So I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing. I think you just get him and you just keep him. And you accept that some weeks he's probably going to get 2 or 3 points, but then he's got Newcastle at home next week and he could get you 10.
Decory and Townsend, they're further down our table here. Townsend in 44th on 374.8 minutes per XGI non-penalty. He's relied on the penalties, obviously. But he has showed up well. Him and Decory and Gray, I mean, there's 3 there in the Everton team you could look at, right? But they've had their good fixtures. That's the only thing with Everton, I think. Yeah,
and, you know, I think we're going to start seeing Decore dropping deeper now. So I've been singing his praises every week and saying he's the one, but is he really going to continue in that really advanced role like he was against Norwich? He's a bit of a concern. I think now I would, if I was wildcarding, I would probably go for one of the other 2. I think I'd probably go for Townsend, you know, if he's on pens.
Yeah, I guess on penalties adds to it, doesn't it? But I think I prefer Gallagher there. And I think for me, Mbomo's done nothing yet to warrant me getting rid of him, other than frustrate me, because he does get chances every game. And I do think Brentford have got that 4-game week run where they look good. And again, it's the same thing that's playing on my mind this week, is if I wildcard him out, I could regret it, because I know he's going to get a couple of chances at West Ham. It's just whether or not they go in, right? And it's a risk, isn't it? Because he's that type of player that, because he's playing up front, why am I getting rid of a 5.5 midfielder playing up front in a team that's showing attacking promise?
It's starting to happen. You can just say, I mean, it's not starting to happen. It is happening for Brentford now. I think they're just learning. They're adapting much quicker than Norwich and Watford to an extent as well. And I think they're only going to get better. I mean, they've obviously already got a good partnership because they know each other well. But you know, they made some new signings and they're starting to gel. And Tony looks completely. I mean, Tony against Arsenal had a good game, but we watched it and thought he's not really attacking very much. Like, he's holding the ball up well, and you know there's clearly a game plan. But now it just seems the game plan is much more about get Tony in the ball and have him hurt defences rather than just get the ball around the penalty area. And that's going to boost the likes of Mbeumo because he's going to thread him through, and they're going to look for each other a lot more. And I can just see them scoring lots of goals, especially over the next 5 or 6 weeks. I definitely want one of them in my side.
Yeah, I don't think I can get rid again. So it's another reason why.
No,
the wild card just doesn't look on for me. Let's look at Tony and forwards then. His data's not that outstanding by any means, right? You know, this is again sorted by minutes per XG on penalty. He's down in 11th place, 199.3. The likes of Jimenez, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, Jesus, Lukaku, Wilson, and Tony all above him, and none of his data is in the top 5 for any of these stats: minutes per shot or shot in the box, minutes per big chance. He's out of the top 5 for all of this data. But you're right, he's settling, right? And he's causing defences problems, and the good fixtures are to come. He has had a tough start. Brentford have had a fairly tough start. So, yeah, I think for that game week run, I'd want one of Tony or Mbeumo. And if I'm not getting them in on the wild card, I'd have a plan to get them in, right?
Yeah, this is where stats stuff is obviously useful, but Tony isn't playing like the 11th best striker in the league from an FPL perspective, in my opinion. I would favour him over 6 or 7 of these players, given what I've seen from him and what I've seen from Brentford, and that's come from watching games. I mean, against Wolves, you know, he had Mbeumo squares the ball to him, he scores. Mbeumo's offside. He then has the handball where it hits his arm. He's unlucky with that as well. He's playing. He's got a back heel, didn't he? You know, he's playing with confidence, and the team is looking to get him. And he's playing for an attacking side that favours. I mean, it's like Leeds last year. Any team that goes to Liverpool and doesn't just sit back and just says, no, we're going to play our normal game and attack, their striker has to be someone that we consider their main striker. And he's got the pedigree. He can get 10 to 15 goals this season. I'm sure he can. Yeah. And they're good runs coming. So, yeah, I look at this list. If you looked at this list, you'd say, oh, his stats aren't that good, I'm going to sell him for someone else. But I'm really reluctant to get rid of him.
So he'd be the third striker if I was playing 3 up front for me as well.
Yeah.
But It's just Lukaku and Antonio for me.
It's a good price as well. I mean, is that 6'3", is he? 6'2", 6'3"?
Get him now while his prices are there. But the front two, if you're going two, it's got to be Antonio and Lukaku, right? Or I mean, we talked about Freeman to death, so we're not going to look at that in our wildcards tonight. But I do think it's very hard, given the fixtures that Lukaku's got, to look beyond those two at the moment. And I don't think, because of the injuries to Wilson, the injuries to Bamford, Jimenez is coming good, but he needs more time, and Tony's got the fixtures coming. So, I mean, moving to 3 in a few weeks to get Tony in is a good move, or going Tony now and maybe going a budget midfielder. But the other two slots up front, Antonio and Lukaku.
I do favour Tony over Mbeumo, I think, just because otherwise you're going to be stuck with like a Parika or someone like that. And, you know, you can get in a Gilmore or a Brownhill or someone else. Obviously not ideal, but at least you've got someone who can come over 2 or 3 points. Or you could go up to Smith Rowe, for example, at 5'2" and pair that with Tony if you've got the cash in the bank to be able to do that. If you go with Mbeumo, then you are less flexibility, basically.
Yeah, and Tony's got the pen. I mean, I'm just trapped in it now, because I know that the minute you get rid,
absolutely,
he's a striker, right? So it's difficult.
Well, and like everyone's not a bad option. Like, he's playing out of position and is looking sharp. He's definitely. But if you're clean slate wildcarding, I think the sensible play is probably just to switch over to Tony.
Yeah, that's why I wanted. If I was going to wildcard, I'd want to do it when Brentford have got the fixtures where Tony can beat Mbeumo in those fixtures. Where doing it now, I don't know.
As soon as you do it, you just know what's going to happen. Yeah,
exactly. That's the trouble. But I mean, would you argue against Lukaku and Antonio with a wildcard? It's difficult, isn't it?
Well, you need them. You need them. You need Lukaku for the fixtures they've got, and you need Antonio because of the form he's in.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd be wildcarding without those two. I think I mean, I guess you could potentially lose Antonio. The games aren't amazing. There's Europe starting, but I don't think the options are any better.
Like, no, we need Calvert-Lewin and Bamford fit, right? And we need the likes of Jimenez having more form, Watkins having more form. Then there's a conversation to have. Yeah. At the moment, I don't think it's there.
No, I agree.
Okay, let's look at your wild cards that you did put together then. So talk us through this, Az. Talk us through your team. This obviously isn't the wild card you're playing, but it would be if you were playing it, right?
Yeah, well, this is one that I sent you earlier. Obviously, I said earlier that Rudiger and Alonso is the play. I haven't got him in this. I've got Sarr, Christensen, Rudiger, Cancelo, Salah, Rafinha, Grealish, Gallagher, Tony, Antonio, Lukaku, and then Foster, Trent. So I kept Trent, Livramento, and Brownhill, and 0.7 on the bench. So is that? I think I could get Alonso with this, but
you could go Christensen. No, you could go Rudiger instead of Alonso. You couldn't get. Yeah,
couldn't get Christian. Well, I might be able to move a few things around and get him. But yeah, it was just a team. It's just a team. I think there's options, right? I think there's lots of options that you can go with on the wild card. I think you can do the 2 City, the 2 Chelsea. I think given that I'm going to be doing it in 8, the big question for me is how do I tap into Man City, because the fixtures are so good, and I still think Grealish is the best pick, just because he's playing the minutes. I just want to see him do something that isn't like an amazing solo goal in the Champions League. Like I want to see him.
He didn't play well last night. He didn't have a good game.
No.
Referee wasn't on his side, and against Chelsea he was impressive, and he should have done better with the chances he had. But
yeah, I want to see him, like, creating more chances, threading the ball through to players who go on and have a chance or have a shot. There was a spell when he was in good areas and in the penalty area, but it just wasn't quite falling to him. And I still wonder if his role in the team is a bit of a question. I mean, his quality shines through in lots of games and he plays well, but when he really settles in that side, I think we're going to know about it, because he'll be unlocking teams in every match he plays.
What I'm not seeing is him laying the ball off for shots, right? I'm not seeing. We saw that for Villa, though. He'd draw defenders in and he'd lay it off for someone like Lewis or McGinn to run through for shots, and obviously he had Watkins to aim for in the box. He's not doing either of those for City, because one, he hasn't got a striker to aim for, it seems. Yep. It's not working necessarily for City in that way, because they're not playing that system, and no one's running onto his passes. I mean, I thought obviously De Bruyne's tailor-made for it. Cancelo to some extent is his side and can shoot. It's not happening as much as I thought, and so I'm not seeing him threatening points in the way he did for Villa, bizarrely.
No, and I think it must be very hard to go into a Man City team, because everything's constantly changing. You've got Cancelo dropping into midfield. You've got a different false nine every match. You've got more rotation. He's good friends with Sterling by all accounts, and probably was looking forward to that partnership, but he's kind of taken his position instead of playing with him. So I think it's going to take a bit of time to settle. I've got absolutely no doubt he's going to be a success at City. He's going to hit a spell where he just is unplayable for ages and gets loads of points, and everyone suddenly floods to get him in. It's always tricky to know when that's going to be. I just think if it's going to happen, it isn't most likely to happen when the fixtures turn quite nice for them. The other option here for me, by the way, is Sarr down to Ramsdale and then Christensen up to Alonso.
Yeah,
which is probably what I'd favour actually, which would be closer to my.
But you would keep Trent in a wild card, would you?
Yeah, I mean, assuming that he's going to be back after the international break, it's not going anywhere. No, he's absolutely. I mean, is there any rumours that he's going to be out for?
Well, they're saying 3 weeks, right? So that could be game week 8. It could be game week 9. So he could miss Watford. But it's difficult to say, isn't it? This one. I think if I was wildcard, and you'll see my team in a minute, I think I'd go without him, but have the plan to get him straight back. I'd have the money in the bank. I think that's what I'd do, because City have got Burnley game week 8. So going in with the 2 City defenders for that, even if Trent did come back, you'd think that City would cover whatever Trent could get, maybe, right? Trent has scored at Vicarage Road before, so not necessarily. But I think when you show my team, that's exactly what I've done.
It's quite just really quickly, quite a few people in the chat sort of talking down Grealish, basically saying overrated, going to be dropped as soon as Pep realises that he falls down all the time. Isn't the big fish in the pond anymore? I just disagree. I just massively disagree with that. I think he's playing 90 minutes for a reason, because a lot of the play he's doing is good play, right? He's getting ratings of 8 and 9 in basically every match that I've seen, apart from maybe the one last night. In the matches I've seen him play, his passing's been good. It's just the FPL perspective that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's not hitting those limits, but in the actual side, he's already doing brilliantly, and he's only going to continue to get better. So his quality in the team of Man City isn't in any question for me. It's just, when does he become that real FPL option when suddenly everyone floods to him?
Yeah,
and I think it could. I genuinely do think it could happen.
He hasn't been anywhere near touched by rotation yet, right? And is he completely bomb-proof? No, I think it might happen eventually, but I don't see it happening yet. I guess the issue is Sterling's not had a run on the left yet at all. No one's had a look in. It's just been him. I wonder how long that will go on for. I think what's helping Sterling is it seems that Torres isn't settled in that central role. He isn't, maybe Guardiola's choice for that role, and Sterling's going to get some starts down the middle still, like he did last night. I think the minute, if someone does pin down that striker role, whether it be Jesus or Torres, then that's when Grealish might get some rotation, but it's not there yet. But
Jesus is a good option, I think. Like genuinely, again, another player, a bit like Mope, who I would have kind of laughed at if you'd said he'd be a factor. But I think he's essentially right winger now, and hasn't done anything to make me think he's not going to play there. But he has also played at striker too, so it's not like he's completely not being used as a striker as well. And the fact he's got that extra versatility means that he might play more minutes.
Just can't trust him though. You're not going to have him in front of Antonio Lukaku, are you? That's the thing.
No, but you could put him in a 3.
Yeah, possibly.
Because you could go in Bremo and.
I think you could, but I think you're trying to force it there. I mean, that might come later in the season. I think Jesus and Sterling could be players that we have for double game weeks, but I just don't know if we get them in normal game weeks yet. Be interesting.
The question is, it's about trying to tap into City for that run, and you can do pros and cons on any player in the side. You could, De Bruyne, Foden, Grealish, Jesus. Like, I could tell you 2 reasons to get them, 2 reasons not to get them. But I think you can make a case of going for anything. If you get it right, then you've done what a lot of people won't have had the balls to do.
I personally, for me, it's Cancelo for sure, because he's got that. He's been brilliant. I mean, he's one of my favourite players. I think he's fantastic in every department. Going forward, I think defensively he very rarely gets caught out. It's just his positioning is good. He's got decent pace. So for someone who offers so much in attack, he is not a liability in defence either, is he? He's not Walker. He's not as sound as him, perhaps, but he's still solid. And you go Diaz, because I just don't think there's an attacker I want to pin my hat on at all. I just don't see don't see someone as definite. Grealish has the definite starts, but I'm just not impressed by his FPL output and what I'm seeing yet. So this is what I've gone for. Ramsdale in goal, Diaz, Rudiger, Alonso, Cancelo, Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Saka, Antonio Lukaku, and Mbomo, Livramento on the bench. Perica still the third striker who offers me nothing at all, but then it does mean I can save 2 million to go Diaz back to Trent when he's fit. And yeah, I've kept with Jota, and I've gone Saka and Rafinha in for the likes of Benrahma and Sarr. So you can see this is a good team to have. Is it a good team to have for game week 7 when Sarr's going to Leeds and when Mbomo's going to West Ham and Benrahma's playing Brentford? That's my problem, you see. I look at it and think I could get punished for that. The injuries at the back perhaps not enough to make me do this, but I like this. I do like it. I like it a lot.
You're not going to like this.
Go on.
I really like it.
Yeah. I thought
It's a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good team. I mean, it's going to hurt you when Mbomo scores a hat-trick and he's on your bench, but, you know, at least Alonso might miss out and you might get the points in, so it's kind of win-win.
I know. And, I mean, I really like Livramento. So there are a number of players that I want in this team.
It's a game week 8 wildcard, though.
Well, it is, but I can get to it quite quickly with just transfers, right? Because if I take... It looks like I've got to take a hit this week. So Cancelo might have to come in on a hit anyway. So I'd already have Rudiger, Alonso and Cancelo at the back. I've already got Salah, Jota, Mbomo, Antonio and Lukaku. So I'm only 3 players off it. And the goalkeeper, okay, I've got Sanchez over Ramsdale, but you're not in a hurry to get Ramsdale. He's not going to absolutely hurt me, is he? So that's not the end of the world. So I'll probably be 3 players off this after taking a hit. So I look at it and think, is that worth playing the wild card? Probably not.
No.
So we'll see when we get to my team. Let's look at
and to be fair, this is what you wanted to achieve, right?
I wanted to build, well, instead of Trent in for Diaz, yeah. This is what I was building to, but I didn't see the Trent injury coming. Other than that, this is and Saka has emerged, right? I was going to probably keep Benrahma, to be honest, but I just think with the European fixtures, sooner or later that's going to tell. Yeah. And Saka's 4 home games in 6 coming up look really good. So
I think Saka over Benrahma's more than sensible.
Yeah. And I think Rafinha, because he's done well against adversity, he's got the injury, but if you've got a decent bench in Mbomo, in my case, and Livramento, you can afford to take the Rafinha risk, I think.
Yep.
Let's look at predictions. You're doing really well. It's really annoying. You're beating me for the first time this season in this, and you really did very well last week. I mean, 5 correct scores, 5 correct outcomes, 3 correct scores. Normally my forte.
I know.
Boom, straight in on that. Yeah. So you've had 8 correct scores this season to my 7. You've had more correct outcomes, 32 to my 30. And you've predicted more clean sheets, 31 to my 26. So you've beaten me in every discipline.
Yep. End the season now, right? It's just call it quits.
Don't like it. Don't like it at all. We want order restored. Let's look at our predictions for this week. Starting, I mean, this is interesting. I just want to stress again, we don't see each other's predictions.
Oh, we haven't gone ultra similar again.
Very similar. Very similar. United, Everton, the early kickoff. We've both gone 2-1 to United. We both see. I mean, it's just only Luke Shaw. I know that United concede in every game, right? So Everton score, but I'm going for an Old Trafford victory.
It's crazy, our predictions. Yeah.
So 2-1 there. I don't think there's too much controversy. Not much deliberation went into that one. Burnley, Norwich at 3 o'clock. We've both backed the home team. You've gone 1-0. I've gone 2-0. Norwich down, right? I mean, I don't want to write a team off, but it's very difficult to see. They're not looking like scoring goals. They're not looking like keeping them out either.
No, they just look like they did when they came up last time. Like, too good for the Championship, but they sold Buendia. Haven't really replaced it with any creativity. Pukki isn't scoring goals, conceding too many. They're just going to go down again.
They have invested more this time. So I think they've rolled the dice more. But losing Buendia at that time, it's too much of an upheaval to take going into a season back in the Premier League, isn't it?
I mean, he was like the best player in the Championship last season. He's like their main player. So to lose him is massive, obviously. But I definitely have my doubts about Pukki at this level because he just doesn't seem to be really consistently up to it. And they've got this Sargent guy, haven't they?
He's good. Josh Sargent.
Who look. I wonder how long it's going to be till he starts. Regularly.
He's starting out on the right at the moment in a free, wasn't he? He looks lively, but a lot of people calling for Pukki to be rested or dropped, in other words. But yeah, we've gone 2-0 Burnley. And I think a Burnley defender's a good shout. If you're wildcard and you want to not go Livramento for your fifth defender, or even a fourth defender, and maybe you're only going 3 at the back, and you want a cheap fourth defender, then I think a Mia or Tarkowski for this game, maybe not for long term, is a good option because Norwich weak at set plays. Burnley have been strong at set plays this season for once. I think that's a good choice. Chelsea,
or it's a perfect 1 week punt if you're looking to wildcard in Gameweek 8 anyway.
That's another reason.
And you want to drop a Trent or a Shaw or someone, and you've already got Lukaku, for example, then get in me or Tarkowski.
Yep. Chelsea Southampton, you've gone the 2-0, I've gone 3. Don't see much resistance from Southampton.
We've consistently underestimated them throughout these predictions. Like the 0-0 against City, no one predicted. They've been considering the players they lost. I thought they'd be worse off than where they are, but you surely you've got to think of Chelsea going to win this.
I don't think it's a besmirching Southampton as such, because we saw Villa play really well at Chelsea and still go down 3-0. I do think that they will create some chances and Lukaku will take and get a couple of goals. I saw the way Jimenez bullied that Southampton defence and immediately thought, well, if they can't shackle Jimenez, his physicality, what are they going to do with Lukaku, who's probably one of the best, if not the best in the world at pinning a defender and turning them, the way Jimenez did to Bednarak for that goal. So, yeah, unless Chelsea are fatigued by tonight's tie and Juvucha in, I don't see any other result than a win, and by a decent margin. Leeds-Watford both gone 2-1. You still think that Leeds will pull off this game? Again, it's more about Watford, I guess, and that they don't offer too much goal threat. Away from home, how ambitious will they be, even against a fragile Leeds? And I do see Leeds, getting the result here. As do you.
I mean, they've got to win. I keep saying it. They can't be losing like a game like this to Watford, or they. Okay, relegation might not be on the cards, but they don't want to be anywhere near the relegation spot. They want to be pushing on. I know they've got a lot of injuries. I know there's problems, but they've got to show that they can get results against kind of the lower teams in the league. So yeah, I'm gonna back them. But yeah, if they drop points in this as well, then yeah, there might be some cause for concern.
The ex-lively derby, I'm calling this, Traore versus Sam Maximin. I'm going a goal fest of 2-2. You've gone a more conservative 1-0. How do you see this one going?
I think I might be. You might as well just write all my predictions down for Wolves over the next 10 weeks. They're all just going to be 1-0, either 1-0 Wolves or 1-0 the other team. I think I look at all their stats and I think this is a team that should be winning games quite comfortably, and they've got a good side and they've got options. I mean, Traore came out of the team, and I mean, Podence was awful, but it shows that they've got players that can kind of come in. But it's just not really happening for them, and I still don't see Jimenez as being someone who's going to ever really get you 2 or 3 goals. And he never
did at his height, did he?
Exactly.
He was the postman. Always delivered 1 goal, some bonus.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think they're going to be quite happy with that. And I think they've sorted the defence out. The defence looks really strong. Jimenez gets you a goal, job's done.
Yeah, I just think the Newcastle defence is so bad that I think they will give up opportunities. And Darlow, bless him, is a good shot stopper, but I think he'll have, maybe between 5 and 10 shots on target to repel against in this game. Unless it's Traore doing the shooting, of course. But I think with Jimenez, got his goal, he'll be a threat. And I think Newcastle will threaten Wolves as well. Sam Maximin, for me, is a player I wanted to get in last week. I think General got him in, got immediate returns. I think it was a smart move. I really like Sam Maximin. If Tony didn't have good fixtures coming up, I think I would be looking at him instead. But yeah, I think he'll get something from this game as well. At the moment, Newcastle offer so much in attack, they just don't have Wilson there to finish it, do they?
Yeah. Well, at the moment they're using Sam Maximin like a Sar, aren't they? Like he's just the absolute gem in the team. But again, the injuries.
Yeah. Well, Willett played, didn't he? Even though he was meant to be out, he turned up and. But my God, they should have scored a couple of goals in that game. I mean, how they got just a draw at Watford, don't know. Brighton, Arsenal, evening kick-off. We're not expecting too much. We've both gone 1-1 here. I mean, are you being just conservative because you're a Brighton fan, or are you?
Do you know what I this one really? Normally, I get the prediction sheet over for me. I fill it all in. Kind of, I think about it a bit, but kind of all comes quite naturally. I just couldn't decide what I felt about this game. I couldn't decide. I think I originally had it as a Brighton win. I thought maybe I'm being a bit biased here. Arsenal have been playing quite well, but then I had an Arsenal win. I was like, no, I think we're going to make it difficult for them. And I kind of feel like one of them's going to win it. I just couldn't decide which one, so I went for a draw.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll still go with confidence, but you didn't make it. You're hard to break down. You make it difficult for teams. You're a spoiling team, aren't you? Where you basically, I mean, Palace played okay against you, but you restricted them to one goal and in the end nicked the equaliser. And I think it could be very similar here. Arsenal, you'll restrict them, and I think you've got enough in you to get a goal yourself, and so that 1-1 looks like a most likely outcome for me.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs just let Arsenal play. Like, the number one rule is don't let Arsenal play football. It's been the same since the Wenger days. You've got to get in their faces and stop the passing
dreadful, weren't they?
and things. It was just completely the wrong tactics. And Brighton have got players that will get in your face.
Yeah.
Like, if Basuma's available and, the wing back's going to be there and, a defender's push up, like, we're not going to let them have the space that Spurs gave them. So I don't think Arsenal are going to run riot. I think it will be a tight game. I'd probably lean towards Arsenal winning it, but
depends on Basuma. If he's fit, then I think a draw is probably a good result, likely result. Palace, Leicester, we've both gone 2-1 the home team. Again, Leicester, just don't see it. I just don't see them clicking. I don't predict them to beat anyone at the moment. I mean, Vardy, he's on it, but I'm still, we're not seeing enough from them other than Vardy. They're relying on him a lot, and yeah, he can produce it at Palace, but I fancy Palace under Vieira at the moment. I think they're showing a lot of intent and they've got some good players coming through. And yeah, I mean, if Gallagher steps up here, he's going to be a lot of wild cards over the break.
They're a team in decline. That's the team sort of on the up from what I can see. And I can't really see any reason why Palace won't massively fancy their chances, which, again, at the beginning of the season, I was really tipping Leicester to kick on this year. And I think, someone mentioned in the chat, thanks for saying, but Barnes, I had Harvey Barnes as being one of my, picks of the. If you told me at the start of the season that Barnes wouldn't have any attacking returns, I don't think he's got any in the first sort of 6 weeks. I wouldn't have believed that. Obviously, got the goal in Europe, but not doing it in the Premier League. And Palace just look good. It just pains me to say it so much, but they just honestly they do look really good.
Well, Leicester are conceding goals, so that's the big thing.
And that's the main thing. Yeah, and Soyuncu looks completely like every week I watch him and just think there's something not right with him. I don't know. And Vestergaard. I mean, Vestergaard is a giant, but he wasn't always consistent at Southampton either. So they've Evans.
Missed Fofana and Evans as
Fofana and Evans. They need to get back in for a bit of stability.
Spurs Villa. You've gone a Villa away win. I've gone a 1-1. You think the Spurs story is going to get even more miserable? He's not going to last, is he, Nuno?
I just saw nothing from them. Like they were just so bad. I mean, the first half is absolutely embarrassing. I mean, they've got 9 points from those first 3 games. I mean, you look at that first game against City and you just think, how can a team fall so far from that first game? Because you talk about a team being in your face. I mean, they were absolutely amazing in that game against City. They were relentless with the pressing and forced them into mistakes, and the front 3 were alive and sharp and direct, and they're getting the ball to them, and it's just the complete opposite. Like, you just wouldn't believe it was the same side. And Kane,
unbelievable, isn't it?
Kane is just, there's nothing there. Like, and this is now like the 3rd or 4th game.
Well, we wonder where his head will be at. It's got to be playing. It's got to be the factor, isn't it? Because his ability's not declining. No. It's got to be mentally. He's just not. He's not with it, right? He's not committed. He's saying the right things, but he's not showing it on the pitch at the moment. And
no,
it's a real problem.
No, and I think Villa on the flip side are a team that they're going to be massively boosted by that win against United, because if they lost Grealish, spent loads of money, addressed quite always. They've got a good system now with your mate. You love Cash.
He looks good.
Wing back, and we wondered how he was going to fit Watkins and Ings in, and he didn't lie. Dean Smith didn't lie to us. He was living in the real world. He said he doesn't see Watkins as a left winger.
The minute he bought Tuanzebe, I knew he was going to go 3 at the back, because it didn't make any sense otherwise to have the 4 centre backs that he had and only play 2 of them.
Yeah. And for that to be working in the way it is, and for them looking to be solid, and they've got Ings who can score goals, and Watkins being back is massive for them as well.
Yeah, and he looks good, right? He's another one who could emerge. And I think Villa are the last team you want to play if you're in trouble at the moment.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Brentford, West Ham, both gone 2-2. So we just see it as an open game, right? With 2 attacking teams and plenty of attacking talent, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think West Ham will score. Their defence has been poor. I think Brentford will score right back as well. Really looking forward to it. Should be a great game. I think these are just two teams where it doesn't really matter who they're playing. You always know that you're going to get a good, entertaining game. So
which is the live game, by the way. These are three non-Garden Centre games at 2:00 on Sunday. Which one's live? I bet it's Palace Leicester. It better not be.
Live is Palace Leicester.
Oh my word! What have they done there? What have the broadcasters done there? They've chosen the wrong one there, haven't they?
Yeah, Palace Leicester. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
That is upsetting.
Liverpool Man City. Then you've gone 0-0, which is probably a likely result. Against the odds, I'm going Liverpool to nick it.
Wow, nice.
I just think of the two teams, the cutting edge is with Liverpool. I think City will dominate possession again, and we saw it in Paris. They played brilliantly, I thought, in spells. I thought they were excellent. But do they have the cutting edge? And I mean, obviously Liverpool might have a mistake in them, right? That's the thing that could let City in. If it's a defensive slip without Trent, Milner out on the right, maybe City will convert and punish that. But if Liverpool can keep it tight at the back, not make a mistake, Liverpool's cutting edge is so good. I see them nicking this one.
Yeah, it's very hard to say Liverpool won't score when they've got Salah in the form he is. But I think both teams will probably take a point.
Yeah.
I just like to pick a 0-0 in these big games.
Well, who am I to doubt you, Mr. Nostradamus, at the moment when it comes to these?
At least if it is 0-0, I've spent 90 minutes watching a crap game of football. At least I've got the prediction right.
Well, this one is live, right? At least. Captain Matrix, and this really just underlines how much Lukaku dominates and why, with the wild card, if you're not going Lukaku, why it could be an error. Because over the next 5 game weeks, when we look at primary candidates for the captaincy, he is in every single game week a primary candidate. We have Ronaldo at home to Everton this week, who you could look at as an alternative. We have Salah at Watford in game week 8. But you go to 9, 10 and 11 when Lukaku has Norwich, Newcastle and Burnley, and I just can't make a case against him for the captaincy in those 3 game weeks.
No, that's why I want him. He's got to come in, I think. Maybe you can get away with it this week, like if you go for a Chelsea defender, but you can't long term. So you've got to decide what you do. You either do wild card and just get him, do you go the double up with Ronaldo and obviously weaken your team elsewhere, or do you just get him? You've either got to get him in this week or next week, I think.
I've got Torres in the differential still for game weeks 8, 9, 10. But maybe not now. Maybe he's out of the equation. Like if he doesn't turn up in game week 7, he's got to be out of our thinking altogether, right?
Yeah, he's annoying. I just think they've got too many players that can play in that position, and he's not going to play consistently enough. I mean, again, I guess it's similar to like a kind of Jota thing. Is do you need, if he played one in 3, he's a no, is he? But if he plays 1 in 2, do you take it? But even 1 in 2 is a bit of a stretch.
But the thing is with Jota, right? The goals are those 3 up front. Whereas City, there's 8, 9 players who can score. That's the problem. Torres isn't a greedy player necessarily either. Whereas you look at those 3 Liverpool attackers and they've all got that greedy streak. I just don't think you can compare Torres to Jota in the same way. Torres needs service, and he needs to play. He needs to be on that pitch more than 60 minutes per game as well.
I would rather have Jesus or Grealish than Torres.
Yeah, well,
and I don't feel entirely comfortable with either of them, but that says a lot about.
It's not looking a bad decision. If I'd have got the timing right, it was probably a good decision selling him. I've probably just missed the only week it was worth having him for. Maybe we'll see. I know.
If you hadn't done it though that week, you probably would have kept him and be ruining it now. So
yeah, very true. Probably dead right. So the captaincy this week, Ronaldo is out on top for the data, right? In terms of minutes per shot, minutes per XGI, non-penalty. We talked about the Everton defence, and of all the defences facing the captain candidates, Everton is the most highly ranked when we're looking at minutes per XG conceded non-pen, 98.2, Villa on 96.8. But they did have the easiest fixtures, right? So how much do you think that Everton's data here, the numbers, were based on the fact they just had an easy run and maybe they are going to concede chances to United?
I don't know. I think it's being a bit harsh. I mean, I think we know Benitez likes to set up a team to be quite defensively sound, and it's why we're probably not seeing Dean pushing up as much. We've got the wingers coming in. They look to me just like a solid team. They look exactly like what we thought they'd be. Like a team that, unless they're playing Brighton, smash them into the ground. They're probably not going to pull up too many trees, but they're going to get the job done, win enough games, finish top 10. With the signings they've made, and losing like players like Rodriguez, I'm not sure that's a complete disaster. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near like top 6, but I don't think they're going to be like whipping boys or really bad. Also, I don't think they're going to be really great. So they're a team where I'm going to look at players playing them and not immediately think I need to captain a player or I need to get in players. Yeah. But equally, they're not a team that I think I'm going to particularly fear. How's that for sitting on the fence? I think they're just like a okay to slightly good team.
But they're not whipping boys, right? They're not in the whipping boy category that Newcastle are here. Like, the data shows that actually, if you're looking for an opponent, Jimenez has the best opponent this week by quite a margin. They're conceding a chance every 5 minutes. Watford are next on 6.4. Watford, when you look at the fixtures they've had, their defensive data should be better, which suggests Rafinha could have some joy, right? And if Bamford was fit, and he might well be for the weekend, I've not put him in this data, but if Bamford is fit, he could get some joy. Certainly Rafinha could out of the Watford defence, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's, I mean, by all accounts, from what I'm reading, Chelsea have been poor again tonight. Lukaku's been poor. I mean, they've had tough games, but he hasn't scored loads of goals. I mean, he obviously got the 2 against Villa, but he's done kind of enough. But it's not always about what they've done in the past. You've got to look for times when you think players are going to start hitting some form, and I just don't want to back against Lukaku over the next sort of 5 or 6 weeks. So, it's
just the opponents for them, isn't it? I
mean, they're just too good. Like a top team has a run of games like Lukaku's got, and you just have to invest in them.
But going back to the forwards data, I looked at Lukaku, minutes per big chance, 150 minutes per big chance, right? He is not getting big chances like the other strikers are. Ronaldo every 54 minutes, Antonio every 63 minutes, Lukaku 150 minutes per big chance. Chelsea, to this point, aren't feeding him effectively. They did in that Arsenal game, the one I bought him off the back of, but since then they've struggled to get him the service. I guess we've got to back that to change over these easy fixtures, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they need to get Ziyech or Mount in the team. I know Mount's been injured, but Ziyech has been fit now for a while and has only played one 90 minutes. He didn't play at all against City. Didn't play against Spurs. He's the kind of creativity that I think they need to start unlocking Lukaku a little bit more. Because at the moment they just seem so reliant on the wing backs to do that. Now James is injured for a while. I think that they just need to put a creative player in. Once they get that creative player back in the midfield, I think we'll start seeing Lukaku making more runs and having a bit more confidence to, move and try and score. So
it is Lukaku. It's not. There's not a conversation to have this week.
I don't think so.
No, I think if you got him, you captain him. If you don't have him, and you still got Ronaldo, it's not a bad to back him, right?
I think Antonio's the only other one that maybe consider, but I'm not backing him over Lukaku this week.
Okay, look at your team then. So you've got the injury to Trent, but you're happy, presumably with Veltman coming in to fill that void, right?
Happy is maybe a slight exaggeration.
Well, it's a Sanchez double up, the Brighton double up, Sanchez and Veltman against Arsenal. Yeah,
and I think we'll concede, so it's obviously not ideal. But do I want to use a transfer on it? Do I want to take a hit over it? Probably not, especially not when I'm wildcarding in Gameweek 8. And like I said, I just think I need to be getting Lukaku in. So I've got Sanchez and Trent and Semedo and Soufal, Salah, Greenwood, Sarr, Benrahma, Tony, Antonio, and Ronaldo. So I don't think there's any real massive problems with this side. I'm happy to take Sarr into Leeds, Greenwood to Everton. I'm happy with the West Ham triple up against Brentford, even though I've got Tony as well. So I've got 4 players in that game, but I think there's going to be goals in it. I think Soufal could get an assist or 2. I've got no real problems with that. It's just, if I don't get Lukaku, who do I captain with this side? That's the big question. And Ronaldo is probably the obvious one, but I think I just think Lukaku has got a bigger upside. And if I've got a transfer to make where I can just pick between either Ronaldo or Lukaku for 1 week, I think it has to be Lukaku for me. So that's
if you knew Trent was out for longer, it might be a choice to make. But with Trent possibly back in 8, certainly back in 9, that's what we're thinking. Yeah, it lends itself to making that Ronaldo switch because come game week 9 you're going to have to get him because of what we saw with the captain matrix, right?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm going to have a wild card anyway. So if Trent is out for longer, then I won't have him on the wild card. So
the wild card is coming next over the break for sure.
Yeah, 90, 95%.
Really?
Because I want to get rid of Soufal, Benrahma, Sarr, Greenwood, Semedo. There's enough players here. Sanchez. There's enough players here who I want to get rid of. It's like probably half the team, over half the team.
Yeah, I mean, I Greenwood, Semedo, Soufal, Sanchez. Yeah.
The players the players I want to keep here are Trent, Salah, Tony, Antonio,
and Lukaku if you get him.
And Lukaku if I get him. Yeah.
I guess you haven't got the Chelsea defence covered or the City defence covered. So
I want to be doubling up with Chelsea defence. That's a given. I want to be getting a City player in, a Cancelo or a Grealish. Like there's lots of moves I want to make, and this to me is the time to do it. Okay,
let's look at my tale of woe. Sanchez in goal at the moment. Trent, Alonso, Rudiger will come in as my transfer for James. Right, unless Rudiger's got an injury tonight, I think that's probably likely. I'm going to do that. Azpilicueta is the other option, but I'll look at what's happened. And I think he went off after the hour mark, which is quite interesting. Which suggests
Alonso went off as well.
He went off at half time. Well, why was that? I wonder. Was that tactical?
He was booked.
Ah, right.
So
maybe it's that. Yeah, but that could be quite handy, right? And midfield and Bomo, Salah, Jota, Sarr, and Benrahma. I'm okay with that. I don't see anything I need to change there. Jota may not start, but what am I expecting out of him anyway? If he started, it's not going to be a rout for Liverpool by any means, is it? So, and I think going forward, I think Jota will play at Watford because Mane's got the long trip back on the international break. So I think Jota's going to play whether Firmino's ready or not for that game. So I think I want to keep Jota with that in mind. So I don't think it's enough for me to get rid of him. And Antonio Lukaku, obviously the wild card front two of choice. I've got that already. So I look at this team and think, yeah, if Shaw's not fit for the weekend, I've got to make another transfer, I think, unless I want Veltman to come in. Because Alonso might not play, and then I'm basically down to 10 men.
Yeah.
So the hit might only be a 2-point hit, not a 4-point hit. So I think
considering you're not wildcarding as well, it hasn't got to pay off immediately as well. And I don't think the Sanchez Veltman double up long term it's done okay for us. I think we've got maybe 2 clean sheets out of it up to this point, and some people would have played Veltman and got an assist from it in the last game, but I think there's other players that we can look to get in now. The
problem is I look at this team and the problem areas are not players that are going to really hurt me or not decisions that really hurt me. Like obviously, if I'm keeping Trent, the players that I would want to change for a wildcard would be Sanchez, Sarr, Benrahma, and Veltman and Shaw. Right now, Shaw could go for Cancelo this week for a hit, right, which would get me the 2 Chelsea and 1 Man City ready. Right, I don't need to go any further than that. If Trent comes back, then I've got a back 4 which is really strong. And my midfield and Bumo, Salah, Jota, Sarr, Benrahma this week looks okay. It's only next week when Sarr's fixtures turn. But if I've made the Cancelo move this week for the hit, I've then got the transfer to move Sarr out to Saka next week. So I could use, the fact that I've taken the hit but got on Cancelo early might help me because I can actually move Sarr out for his bad fixtures.
Yeah.
It's like seasons before where I'm never going to see enough to make me wildcard. And that's the worry. And that's hurt me before. I said it last season, didn't I?
Yeah, but I mean, you like I said earlier, like you getting in the Chelsea defenders and the striker is the main reason why people are choosing to wildcard. So there's no point in doing that, and then because you put up with some pretty bad fixtures for them and stuff, and then you're wildcarding just as the fixtures turn quite good. So no, I've looked at your team in the past and thought, maybe he does need a bit of a, but it's done all right. I'm only 2 points behind. 2 points ahead of me. But now I look at it and think, you can get away with this for a bit longer. There's not many players in that team who I think are bad shouts.
No, because Mbeumo's got better fixtures to come.
Yeah.
Benrahma, the European games aren't affecting them yet. And Sanchez, you're never in a hurry to get your keeper changed, are you? So I don't think, Rams.
I think Benrahma's the one. Benrahma's the one with your team that I would say next week would be one I'd be looking to move on.
Do you? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, with Europe as well, and I mean, both of them ideally. But if I was going to prioritise one next week, it'd probably be Benrahma.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll probably be taking the hit, and it'll be Cancelo coming in, a player I'm not expecting a lot of this week, but he's a player that I want from next week on, so I might as well make the transfer early.
Yeah,
and then play him and hope that City get a clean sheet, which is, let's face it, they got one at Chelsea, so it's possible. I'm not backing it, but I still like having Cancelo in a team. So I think that's what it probably do. One more injury, though. If one of my midfielders goes down, or Alonso's been taken off with an injury, it probably would tip me to the wild card.
Would it?
Yeah.
You could end up doing it this week.
Yeah. One more, and I'm doing it, I think. But
wow,
at the moment, not. So we could have an impromptu live feed on Friday night.
Oh God,
imagine that.
No.
BlackBox League.
I'm not ready.
No, look at this BlackBox League. It's another reason to celebrate. Not only the 20k subs, but this is it, isn't it? It's what you wanted.
This was always my dream. Yeah, and that's for. Is this the right screen?
No, it's not the right screen, but we're in the top 5 leagues.
We're in the top 5 leagues. Yeah, yes. It was always my dream.
We are fifth.
To be in that.
We are 5th in the top leagues in the fantasy. So we're on the front screen of the FPL.
Honestly, I'm so happy with that. Well done, all the people who are propelling us up the
brilliant,
ranks,
isn't it?
Because I always wanted to feature on that, and now we are.
And we've got to say that Hayden Neal, who is top of our league, is 3rd in the world. Wow. So him joining our league has done us a power of good. Ryan Quinn is in 2nd. He's 17th in the world. Keep going, Ryan. Obey Aid is 488th in the world, and he's 3rd in our league. And then the guy who came in, that obviously probably lifted us into the top 5 leagues, was Sergios Kagnestos. I've done well there. It's not bad, I think. Not bad for someone who can't pronounce Aubameyang and Mbomo. He's 487th in the world. So we have been, newcomers have arrived in our league and put us 5th overall. We're still behind Scout and we're still behind Slippers League, but
the bribes have worked.
Yeah. And what we need to do now is start convincing people in our league to leave those leagues so we get pushed up. So some kind of financial incentive. We'll think about that.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
we're all about the cash.
It's a two-pronged attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Apprentice League, we've got to start getting more hands-on with these guys because they're falling away a bit. Hopefully they're not getting frustrated, but yeah.
We need intervention over the international break. I think get some videos in. Nat needs to come on because she's still messaging me. She's still keen, still involved in the community, but they are falling. This needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean it's quite comforting that us as hardcore players are beating them, because what we didn't want and what the risk was doing this is that they would come in as newcomers to FPL and actually do incredibly well, and that hasn't happened. So perhaps the result is what we'd expect to see. But obviously, Natalie,
maybe we're just brilliant, Mark.
Well, that goes without saying, doesn't it? But no, I think it is reassuring that considering the effort that we put in, and there is that difference, but it's not a big gap, is it? I mean, they can make that up. Henry is 16 points behind Natalie. She's on 390. Henry 374. You're on 422, and I'm on 424. But with me, with the hit, this is the week you take over. I mean, effectively, once I've done that second transfer, you're beating me officially. Yeah. I didn't do it before the show for that very reason. But
stop the count.
I know. Come the deadline Saturday, you'll be beating me by 2 points. But will you still be beating me?
Don't sound so surprised.
It's good. and will you still be beating me come next week's show?
I hope so.
Yeah, no, I think he will be. I think
I'll be winning predictions. I'll be winning FPL.
No,
it will be a glorious.
I haven't been comfortable in the suit tonight. I've got to say, it's made me feel a bit stiff, and I'm like Citizen Smith these days. I'm not one for a suit and tie anymore, despite what people think of my corporate sensibilities. But next week, if I'm comfortable this week, I'm going to be more uncomfortable next week if you're beating me in everything. That'll be
Come on.
I'm
Hashtag Team Az, come on.
I'm just not having it. Do you want to give Green Arrow a shout? The Green Arrow charity that we're doing, because obviously we've coughed up some money, haven't we, on this?
Absolutely.
So far?
Yep. I paid off the money and all the bets we've made.
Yeah, 2 bets I lost to you, of course. Yeah.
2 bets you lost. I paid out my Ronaldo outscoring Lukaku bet, which I feel a bit miffed by,
it's fair enough. I think
it's for charity. It's fine. So between us, I think we'd had 3 out of 4 Green Arrows last month each. So we paid up for that. If you're interested in getting involved in that, look up the FPL challenge. It's share the meal, so you'll be buying food for starving people around the world. We're doing £5 for every Green Arrow each that we get. you can do it as little as 65p is what essentially buys a meal for someone. So if you get a green arrow and you want to give back, head onto that app, look for the FPL challenge and share the meal, and give 65p to feed people.
I couldn't contribute this week because I got the small red arrow, but hopefully we're both contributing next week with 2 greens. We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
So that's about it for this week. We'll see next week what it brings. We'll be out of the suits.
Yep.
And I'll be in a hair shirt if I end up being.
Unless we hit 30k in the next.
Well, of course, yes. And thanks very much for the subs and likes so far. I guess just end the show with a subs and like request as usual.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks everyone for your support. Lots of people asking why we're in suits. It is because we've hit 20,000.
Yeah.
It must be very weird just coming onto this stream and just seeing us in suits.
Yeah,
and
what's
not
going on?
knowing
They
the
come
context.
straight from the bank or something.
Yeah. Well, you probably have.
How dare you?
But yeah, thanks everyone. And yeah, if you haven't liked this video yet, please like it now. If you want to drop us any comments, we read them all and we reply to as many as we can as well.
Including Alan's, right?
Maybe Alan, maybe not Alan anymore. Sorry, Alan. But yeah, thanks, and we will see you next week. No, we won't. Will we see you next week? International break.
Yeah, we'll do one next week. We did one in the middle of next week. We did one in the first week of the break last time, so we'll do it again. Particularly if you beat me, which I think you will be. So surely you're not going to miss that opportunity.
Pressure. Yeah, we'll see you next week then.
Yeah, it's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.